I call this meeting of the Hurst-Euless-Bedford Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, and this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening to everybody. We're going to start this meeting with an invocation by Board Member Fred Compass.
Everybody, please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you that kids have returned to school. Lord, we thank you so much that we can all be good stewards of protecting and taking care of these kids. We thank you that these are our future leaders. Father God, we pray for the parents of these kids, that they continue to entrust us as a district with them. We lift up our teachers and our staff, Lord. Help us to be the very best examples for these children. And last, Lord, we pray for our community, which also helps us raise these kids. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We pray for wisdom today. We pray for all the decisions that are before us. And Lord, we pray for peace. In Jesus' name we pray.
Next, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Board Secretary Rochelle Ross.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas pledge, please. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Tonight, the Board of Trustees meets in its regularly scheduled monthly meeting to officially act on items included on the posted agenda. The Board and Administration welcome and appreciate comments and input from the community. Open forum is provided at each meeting to allow the public to address the Board. There will be 2 open forums tonight. Open forum number 1 is to hear requests regarding agenda items only. Open forum number 2 is to hear requests or make comments regarding non-agenda items, and will be heard at the end of the meeting. Those addressing the board are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. The speaker should identify his or her name and group affiliation, if any, and make a brief presentation with an identified solution if one is sought. Remarks should be addressed to the board as a whole. Oral presentations may not include charges against any employee or board member by name. It is my responsibility to determine if the person addressing the board has attempted to resolve a concern informally or through the district's complaint policies. If not, the speaker will be directed to follow the appropriate policy. It is expected that you will observe the rules of courtesy and respect for the rights of others when addressing the board. The board president always reserves the right to set procedures and standards for the audience communication with the board. If you wish to speak during one of the open forums, please fill out one of the cards located on the table in the entry hall. Now, for any of you who might be here to speak during open forum number 2, especially concerning masks, I just wanted to let everyone know that we have called a board meeting for Friday, August 27th at 5 p.m. in the board hall, here in the boardroom at the HEB ISD Administration Building to hear an update from the district's attorney on legal updates to Governor Abbott's executive order and discuss mask options for HEB ISD students, staff, and visitors. There will be an open forum at this meeting prior to any action being taken. All right, so board activity chart. We'll start with Mr. Brown.
Every year we do convocation, and every year, team, it is amazing. I keep saying we can't do it any better, but Deanne and all those that were involved, it was awesome, to say the least. It was wonderful to see all of our teachers and all of our community together again, and it was just amazing to kick off the school year. I just really enjoyed it. In addition to that, I also enjoyed attending the Chamber of Commerce, and it's always exciting to get the school year kicked off.
Ms. Ross.
I concur. Convocation was out of the park this year, amazing. And I also participated in the Six Stones Back to School drive-through. That was just a wonderful day with all the kids and their parents driving through, getting their backpacks. So excited to start school. It was wonderful. And I've already started visiting campuses, which is my favorite thing to do. So thank you to Euless Junior High and Principal Stanton. They asked me to come speak to their teachers at their welcome back breakfast, and that was amazing, seeing all those junior high teachers. You know, junior high is not my thing, but the junior high teachers are like my heroes. I don't know how they do it, but it was a true honor to speak to their teachers at their welcome back breakfast. And then Friday, I visited 3 campuses. I went to Bell Manor. They've instituted the house system this year, and so we helped coordinate to get a bounce house there, and the kids drew their bracelet, went down the bounce house, announced their house. So now their whole campuses got a house, and they're really excited about building community there. It was amazing. I went to Bedford Heights for the reading rally. That was amazing because then we got to use our outside voices inside, and Principal Harrell let us just scream through the hallways. Mr. Chapman was doing it too. We were just screaming through the hallways, going class to class. It was amazing because everybody got to be as loud as they wanted the last 30 minutes of school. So thank you to Bedford Heights. And then I hopped over to Bel Air Elementary, and we had a drive-through celebration for teachers, which was probably the highlight of my day. That they were not only handing out popsicles to us, which was great on a hot Friday afternoon, but it was great to see the teachers at the end of their first week, full week, they're tired, and we got to drive through. The Hearst PD led that, and it was just really an amazing celebration. So I've got a lot more schools on my calendar. I'm going to Hurst Hills on Wednesday to see the grand reopening of their library that she's excited. So all of you principals out there, please invite us to your campus. I'm anxious to come see kids and teachers.
Ms. Cole.
Wow, I'm tired after all that. Obviously, I'm lucky to just get to these meetings right now. For those of you that don't know, I've just had double knee replacement surgery, and probably shouldn't be at these meetings yet, but I'm here, and just happy to be here.
I'll pass.
All right, thank you. And I'll pass as well.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I forgot to do one thing, and this is just for DAEP. They'll know what this means, but I really appreciate them sending these handwritten notes. We got to be part of something special for them, and they send handwritten thank you notes to everybody that participated. So thank you to the DAEP staff. This was really touching. Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing that Ms. Ross didn't mention that we actually attended together, and Mr. Campos was there too, was the community performance.
That's right.
On Saturday for LD Bell. So it's great to see kids out on the field marching and getting to do what they love to do again. So that's great.
Mr. President, sorry to interrupt. Deanna, I'm getting texts that okay, you got it.
All right. Mr. Chapman, any comments?
I do not have any comments, thank you.
Any clarifications?
No, any clarifications that we have already gone out to board members that made that request.
All right. Well, the next item is very exciting. It's the presentation of our 2021-2022 student ambassadors.
Thank you, Board. We are very, very honored and excited to introduce to you the next, I guess it's the next cohort of our student ambassadors. And before we do that, I just want to provide some recognition to Mariana Royer. I just want you to know that she has taken this program and it has become part of who she is, and she has done an amazing job with these kids. She has several employees that help her. Lisa Tyson, who also works in the PR and marketing office, Dave Nielsen, who works in the PR and marketing office, and also Elaine Vaughn, who is a counselor at BCTEA. So I just want you to know that behind the scenes, these employees are doing an amazing job with these kids. So I'm going to turn it over to Mariana.
Good evening. I'm so excited to be here and be able to present and announce the 2021-2022 HEB ISD Student Ambassadors. This year we have 23 students that I feel are a great representation of our district and are just they're really excited that they're able to do things now, some in person and some online as well. But I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have quite a bit of students. We are going to first start with Miss Alexandra Baker. She is a senior at Trinity High School. She participates in marching band, the BCTEA education program, and is a member of the National Technical Honor Society. Our next one is Ritika Benapali. She's a senior at Trinity and is a member of the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy International Com and is the president of the Trinity National Honor Society. It's Brenna Basho, I'm gonna say it right, Bachole. And she is the captain of the Bell varsity softball team and is a member of the Junior World's Affair Council and the National Honor Society. Elijah Castanedo is a senior at LD Bell High School and is a member of the Bell basketball team, Student Council, Asian Club, and NHS. Ryan Corrier is a junior at LD Bell and is a member of the Bell Symphony Orchestra and participates in Academic Quiz League. Annie Davenport is a senior at Trinity, participates in Trio, and is the president of the Trinity Internet Club and the publicity director for the National Honor Society. Mauro Intricate is a junior at Trinity, participates in the Trinity Color Guard, is a treasurer of the Interact Club, and is a member of the Spanish Honor Society and Class Council. Ethan Kellenberger is a junior at Trinity. He is a hockey player and a member of the Trinity Junior Brahma hockey team and the Grapevine Colleyville hockey team. Paloma Magana, she is a junior at Trinity, is part of the Trinity Band, and a member of the National and Spanish Honor Society and the Junior World Affairs Council. Madison Metcalf is a senior at LD Bell, is involved in Bell Symphony Orchestra, the tennis team, and is a member of the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy and National Honor Society. Seth Moola is a junior at Trinity, is involved in the Trinity Choir, and is very active at his church. Mizan Muhammad is a junior at LD Bell and is a member of the Bell Orchestra and a Bell Systems, and it's a member of the Muslim Student Association of Student Council. He couldn't be with us here today. Nova Nzeyimana is a senior at LD Bell, is involved in the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy, is a manager for the girls' basketball team, and a member of the Women's Empowerment and International Club. Elise Pham is a senior at LD Bell and is a member of the Bell's varsity tennis team, the president of the Model UN, and president of the Student Council. Isaac Ramos is a senior at Trinity, is a captain of the Trinity varsity tennis team, a member of the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy, and the National Honor Society and International Club. Paul Robles is a junior at LD Bell, participates in Bell soccer, track, and cross country, and is a member of the Science Club. Ernesto Sandate is a senior at LD Bell, is involved in Model UN, is a treasurer of the Student Council, and a member of the National Honor Society. Rohan Sanyal is a senior at LD Bell, is part of the Bell varsity tennis team, vice president of the Muslim Student Association, and a member of the Asian Club. Brooklyn Sudinsky is a junior at Bell who cannot be with us today, is a member of the Bell volleyball team and a member of the Student Council. Montashim Sayed is a senior at LD Bell, is a member of the Bell varsity football team, participates in the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy and the MSA Club. Elizabeth Tomoloju is a senior at Trinity, is a Troyan, a member of Trio and the National Honor Society. And our last student ambassador is Claire Yu, a junior at Trinity, is a member of the National Arts Honor Society, Internet Club, and National Honor Society. Those are our 23, 21, 22 HEB-ISD student ambassadors.
All right. Y'all. If the ambassadors would turn around and face the board, please. Okay. So, okay. We just like to see your faces. You know,
Yeah.
we don't want to just see your backs. So, for everyone who doesn't know, this program kind of started as a dream of this board. It kind of branched off of something that we were doing for adults, and our previous board president, Ella Jones, said, well, why couldn't this work for kids and for our students? So the program started, and it's thanks to the hard work of Ms. Hollander, Ms. Royer, and Ms. Tyson, it's just gone far beyond what we ever thought it could be, and we're so proud that you guys have chosen to be ambassadors for this district, and that you're willing to put in the work to learn about this district and to really, put the best light everywhere we go. So those green jackets mean a lot to us. When we see you guys, we know that we're talking to some of the best students in this district. So thank you for being here this night, and thank you for being board ambassadors this year. Is any-
We love them.
Great job, y'all. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, while they're exiting, I have one other presentation that did not make it onto the agenda, but it is a wonderful, wonderful honor. The State Board of Education, a member, Pat Hardy, nominated, and I want to tell you a little bit about Brock Bergen. Brock, if you will come stand right up here. Brock is a junior at LD Bell, and this extraordinary young man, who is definitely a product of HEB ISD, has volunteered weekly for the past 2 years as a trendsetter mentor focused on improving the reading skills of elementary children within the district. He volunteers at the local public library and is working to start a neighborhood library in his subdivision. In addition to mentoring, he helps at organizations that benefit youth and families. While helping at these organizations, he realized that a pair of socks was the most needed item at shelters. He acted and founded the Brock's Socks that is geared towards collecting and donating socks.
Ever.
With donations from family and friends, he was able to send 156 pairs to the HEB Clothes Closet. With a passion for service, on his 16th birthday, Brock chose to sponsor a food drive for the Tarrant Area Food Bank. His food campaign helped raise about $1,500, which provided over 6,000 meals for families in the area. The organization that is honoring him honors people who do kindness projects. And so Brock is a shining star in HEB ISD, and I know that his mother and his grandmother, there they are. Oh, and his father. You know, you have to say that kind heart comes from the family. So I know that this family is amazing. So thank you, Brock, for all that you've done, and congratulations.
Yeah. Why did you ask that question? There you go. See your faces. Now, hey, Brock.
Brock. Before you leave, Brock, tell us how we can help you. This is what we like to do too. Tell us how we can donate, where we can donate, what types of things you're looking for. We know a lot of people that can help.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in this room.
You want to speak in the microphone?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mom say it. Yeah.
Okay, you can send this information to my Instagram account. There's an Instagram account for all of this, so I'll have to provide the information. It is called Brock's Socks. We'll have to just email somebody the information.
Yeah, that'd be
so.
great.
I'd be happy to do that. I will get it out in the superintendent's update. How's
So
that?
you need socks and food and what else?
There's also a cash app that I have that I'll provide that to somebody that works here, and they can send money, and then that money can be used for donations.
That's great.
We're on it. We're going to help you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Hollander, we're ready for open forum number 1.
Deanne, do you have the cards? Multitasking tonight.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, really. The parents.
Okay. Yeah, all the parents who are here to see your ambassadors get presented, you can feel free to leave at this time, or you can stick around, but it's going to be a little while before we have another break, so. Okay, first person for open forum. Melissa Trujillo?
That's all right. Might want to do a reminder of the 3 minutes. Number 1, here's another number 1.
All right, and you'll have 3 minutes once you start speaking, and the time should come up on the screen for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Hi there. My name is Melissa Trujillo, and I'm speaking today to advocate for all teachers and employees. The ESSER grant, from my layman's research, was earmarked to help mitigate the risks and fallout from COVID. I think the school district has begun a lengthy list of how to use this money to catch up children. However, I do not feel like enough of the money has been spent to mitigate the continued risk of COVID. Frankly, not enough money has been spent to ensure we keep our most valuable resources, our teachers. We need to offer more mental health services, expand the EAP. Teachers would benefit from additional staff, like assistants or paras for each grade level. This would be a great way to cultivate the upcoming teachers of tomorrow. We can lighten the load of all teachers so they can focus on closing the gap. How can we place the brunt of the work on teachers alone? There's got to be options to use this money to hire others like janitorial staff, part-time nursing staff, and additional aides. Teachers deserve safe work conditions just as any other employee. If you're unwilling to protect your best asset, then at minimum, you should reinstitute the additional sick leave program when they get COVID. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, next speaker is Donate Hall.
Hi, my name is Deontay Hall, and I am a Bedford resident. I have 3 children in HEB ISD, 2 of whom are currently in elementary school. I know that you've been inundated with opinions both for and against the temporary virtual option. I'm here tonight to ask you, when making your decision, to consider some things that you and others who are in favor of the temporary virtual option may not have considered. Please know that I understand the concerns of the parents who want a virtual option for the health and safety of their children. As a substitute teacher for HEB ISD, I spent the majority of last year in the elementary schools, in one elementary school, and I'm currently a long-term substitute in first grade. While the COVID health concerns are very valid, the education of our students is also a very valid concern. My understanding is that there are 600 students that have been registered for the virtual option. And while 600 is not a small number, it is roughly 5% of our total K-6 enrollment. While I don't have exact numbers on the numbers of students who will require academic interventionists this year, it has to be significantly higher than 5% for the school board to have allocated ESSER funds to hire a full-time interventionist for each of our 21 elementary schools. I know guidelines have been given for the students who have signed up for the virtual option, but there is no way to verify those students are already up to date and are not behind where they need to be. If those students fall further behind while they're doing the temporary virtual option, and we take our interventionists from the schools, those children will be behind. The students that are in person will be further behind. And if we have to continue this virtual option past the current 9 weeks that you're already looking at, our kids are going to fall further and further behind. At what point do we implement a plan to bring all of those students back to where they need to be? What is the plan for that? How do we continue to move all of our children forward? I understand the concern, the people that want this virtual option, but my fear is that there's going to be a large percentage of the people that have signed up for the virtual option that aren't really concerned about COVID. Not that they're not concerned, but that's not their primary concern. I have a feeling that some of those parents are going to keep their children at home because it's an easier option.
Okay, no comments, let the speaker speak, please.
So if you're keeping your children home because it's an easier option, those children are not getting the support that they need at home in order to continue their education. Our kids are falling further and further behind, and we do not have a plan to bring those kids back up to where they need to be and the kids who are already behind where they need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lisa Langston.
I'm here again, hoping to be heard. I feel fear is being heard and our board is being reactionary. Where were all these fearful people a month ago? They were not here. Even a week ago, I have to call out, we are supposed to be transparent. I'm looking for transparency. This room is full of hypocrisy. A week ago, people in here were not wearing masks, and I think people were called here tonight to come in masks to make a point. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. A new variant has been around since before school started, and nobody was here. I was here. The plan for return to learn was back to normal, as we were told. I was here 2 weeks ago, 2 days before school started. I spoke. One other person spoke. This room was pretty much empty. No one was here. Everything seemed normal. The next day, the day before school started, poor leadership told the elementary schools to put up shields and tables in tabled classrooms and cafeterias. My heart went out to the teachers. My heart went out to the kids who walked into a different classroom on Wednesday than they saw at Meet the Teacher. This was all done with absolutely no data to back it up. No data. Shame on the leadership that did that. And for all those teachers, I'm so sorry. I sent several emails that Tuesday, and the shields were taken down in the classrooms, and I'm very much appreciative for that. School starts, and all of a sudden we have a small percentage of our student population crying and wants virtual learning. That's their fallback if they can't mask everyone. I taught kindergarten here in HEB for 8 years, and I can tell you that virtual learning is a disaster, and we are leaving children behind. How many children have died in Tarrant County due to COVID? 0. Where's the threat? Repeating facts from the May meeting, 235 some odd students quarantined for 10 to 14 days because they may have been near somebody that tested positive. How many of those kids got sick? 0. How many kids took their life and are no longer with us in this district because of masks and virtual learning and stress called by people yelling at them to pull up their mask? Social distance. That's our threat. That is our threat, is those children. So what did we learn? Where is the threat? Masks and virtual learning. Those are the threats to health and safety. HEB was set to start as normal. You didn't. You haven't stood firm. You've panicked, and there was no need to panic. Our attendance is high. 22,000 students in our district. Last week we had 127 COVID positive cases. That is 0.58% of our district. Same for the teachers, it's 0.72. Why are we panicking? If you get COVID, what's the recovery rate? 99.97 for all ages. Why are we panicking? HEB convocation, like you talked about, it was so great to see all of those faces. Very few had masks on. Are all of our teachers in the hospital? They're not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lydia Meeks.
Did you get one? Go ahead. Do I start? Okay. Hi, my name is Lydia Meeks. I have 2 nieces in the HEB ISD school districts. I also graduated from LD Bell. Went to HEB schools my whole life. I have handed you all a presentation about why we need virtual learning, if you don't mind me going through it with some of us. Last week, during the board meeting, there was a comparison from last year's numbers to this year's numbers. Let me ask you, how does that make sense? How can we compare last year to this year when there is more contagious variants, the Delta variant, and the numbers are increasing every day? Today, in Tarrant County, as you can tell on the first page, we are at the status of code red, where the transmission rate is high. 93% of our county hospital beds are being utilized, and 95% of ICU beds are occupied. This is on the Tarrant County website. You can look it up. There are a total number of 294,498 new cases, with 689 being dead. Last week alone, there were 29 deaths. In HEB ISD, student cases went from 28 to 158 in a week. This will keep increasing, and the teachers' cases went from 14 to 20. These numbers are the numbers that we have to look at. What happens when we have to shut down? What happens when the kids start dying? I have included also on the second page the petition that asks HEB ISD to make masks required. As you can see, this now has over 1,000 signatures. Over 1,000 people are asking you all to do something, to care about our kids. It is up to us to do our part and to come together, to make sure that we do not overload our hospitals. We are asking that you care, which never has been a problem in this district, never. So why is it a problem now? We are asking that you make the children and staff the priority, as so many other districts have done. You cannot teach students, nor can you have teachers if they are all sick from COVID. There is no reason to risk the health of students and staff. And this presentation will give you facts. Every fact cited is not just made up. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Marlene Barati. Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Good evening, my name is Marlene Berardo, and I am a concerned parent and community member. I have 2 children in HEB ISD. Please turn the page. Oh, I guess you're on it. According to an internal CDC document, the Delta variant, one of 4 variants of concern that have mutated from SARS-CoV-2, is more than twice as infectious as the original virus and as infectious as chickenpox. Individuals can have 1,000 times the viral load compared to the original COVID-19 virus. According to research from the University of California, San Francisco, people infected with the Delta variant carry a detectable viral load earlier than the original virus, 4 days versus 6 days earlier. And another study found that they remain infectious for longer periods of time, 18 days versus 13 days. The Delta variant is much more contagious and lasts for longer periods of time than previous variants. R0 refers to the transmissibility of a disease. The original virus had an R0 of 1 to 2, which means that on average, every infected individual spreads the virus to about 2 people. Delta has an R0 of 5 to 8, which means the average transmission from 1 infected child or teacher is to about 5 to 8 individuals. In a school environment where there are very few children and teachers who are masking, and there are few social distancing protocols, it's only a matter of time before schools are impacted with large numbers of sick teachers and students. These students may also carry the disease home and give the virus to vulnerable family members who are not able to be vaccinated or are immunocompromised, and may even spread to already vaccinated individuals in the community. According to data from Yale Medicine, last year the people mostly impacted by COVID-19 were the elderly and those with comorbidities. According to E.C. Lidrum, a pediatric infectious disease specialist and vaccinologist, kids and young children are increasingly becoming sick from the Delta variant. A recent study from the UK showed that children and adults under 50 were 2.5 times more likely to become infected with Delta. And so far, no vaccine has been approved for children 5 to 12 in the US. While realizing children appear to be least at risk of dangerous infection, most parents are not willing to take a chance or risk long-term potential effects, put older family members or the vulnerable in danger, and simply want to play their part in mitigating the spread. Why take a risk? Isn't it worth it if we can keep one student, one faculty member, one family member out of the hospital or alive? The least we can do is try to control what we can control.
Thank you. The next speaker is Leslie Trujillo.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Lopez. If you haven't already, if you'll turn the page to the protocols, please. I am a mom of a 6-year-old in the HEB school district. Now we are going to take a look at protocols from last year. You wanted to compare last year to this year, so here's the information that are not being observed this year, despite there being a more contagious variant. All of this is from the HEB ISD website. Social distancing for last year. Students were seated as far apart as possible, and student-to-student interaction was limited. Desks were arranged facing the same direction. No large gatherings. Congregating in an area on campus was not allowed. Currently, there are no restrictions on students gathering in groups. Desks in many of the classrooms are together with students facing each other or side by side. Why are we not enforcing this? Health screening. All students have their temperatures checked prior to entering any school facility. All staff members signed in and acknowledged they took their temperature and answered no to all health questionnaire criteria. Right now, there are 0 health screenings. Cleaning protocols. Last year, all surfaces were cleaned in between classes. This year, desks and other surfaces are not being cleaned between classes. Quarantine. Allowing students to quarantine. Still participating in daily schedule via an electronic medium. Teachers who are in quarantine and able to work from home will be expected to provide detailed daily lesson plans or teach their full schedule through a live electronic medium each day. Right now, a teacher must use PTO for quarantine or infection. Also right now, asymptomatic siblings or household contacts of the asymptomatic person may remain on campus. Why are we not stopping the spread? Masks. Each student and staff member would be issued a mask and face shield. Any individuals entering a district facility or boarding a district bus would have to have a mask in place, covering both the nose and mouth. When on district property, masks must be worn at all times, covering both the nose and mouth with the exception of breakfast, lunch, and other limited situations such as athletics. Required on transportation as well. Right now, there are no mask requirements within the district, despite it now being allowed in the state. I think we are all working towards trying to keep our children, our teachers, and communities healthy so that we can remain moving along as normally as possible. So we must be as diligent as we were last year. Why are we putting kids at risk when it's completely unnecessary? Why are we making choices that add to the burden in our hospitals? Why that are already so overwhelmed? HEB ISD did such a great job protecting students and staff from COVID last year. We need this to go back to the same safety protocols. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nicole Tiller.
You could turn the page to the virtual option, please. My name's Nicole Tiller. I have a student at Harwood Junior High. I think we can all agree that our preference is that our kids remain in school. We all want them in the school building. A virtual option is necessary at this time. The littles can't get vaccinated. They can't. It's not approved for them yet. The older kids that can should be, but I know that most of them are not. So we need to have an option for those kids that are fragile, and we need to have an option for the kids that are too little. We cannot keep sending them back into pandemic soup with no safety protocols in place and expecting them to come out of it without any problems. Now, I know the virtual option isn't awesome for everybody. We're Title I schools. We are working families, and a lot of people can't do it. But the people who can should be given that option. And they should be given the option to start it now and not wait 2 more weeks to get COVID. They should start it now. They should be able to do their work at home, and they should be able to do it all the way through December so that there's plenty of time for the little kids to get vaccinated. There are 2 options that must be enforced to keep our children and our faculty safe. We need to make masks required in the schools, and we need to let the kids that can do virtual until they can get vaccinated. And after watching last week's meeting online, I would like to remind all of you that these are our children. They're not $49 a day. These are our kids that you just threw back into school like nothing happened, like the pandemic was over because it was inconvenient. And that is not okay with us. We need a virtual option, and we need it to start right now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Leslie Hawkins.
Hello, I'm Leslie Hawkins, mother of a 3rd grader here in HEB. If you guys will change the page if you haven't already. Okay. I'm going to speak to you about the actions that parents concerned for the safety of students at HEB ISD are requesting the board in an effort to protect the children from the Delta variant. Last year, HEB ISD did a great job at protecting our children. This year, with the spread of Delta, a much more contagious variant, few protocols are being enforced. First, we want masks required. It is important to stop the spread of the Delta variant, and masks have been proven to do that. This will help prevent a district shutdown and virtual-only option. We know that the virtual-only option will cause a lot of hardship on the families who cannot support their child due to their work schedule or other obligations. However, it is important that those who can go virtual do so in order to limit classroom sizes. Masks need to be required on district property. Districts such as Paris ISD have made it part of their dress code. Studies have also shown that mask wearing does not affect academics. Children aged 7 to 13 years have been shown to be able to make accurate inferences about the emotions of others with partially covered faces. Second, we want social distancing to be observed on district property. We understand that there will be some difficulty maintaining the 6 feet rule, but we are asking for our kids to not congregate in groups. As shown by these pictures on your next page, if you guys will flip the page, these are taken from public posts from our elementary schools, and it shows that social distancing is not being followed at all. Okay. We also want the desks to be spaced out and facing the same direction as the schools did last year. Third, we want COVID testing to be observed within the district. Currently, it is difficult for the families to find available appointments to get their kids tested because of the spread of Delta. Grapevine-Colleyville ISD has a testing program for their district using rapid antigen tests funded by the TEA. Fourth, better contact tracing. Parents need to know quickly when their child has been exposed so that they can take precautions at home. The current guideline says that siblings of kids that have COVID can still come to school. This will contribute to the spread of the virus from asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic infections. Kids who have family members at home sick with COVID-19 should not come to school. Grapevine-Colleyville ISD and in their COVID protocols ask that students who have been exposed must quarantine and use remote conferencing to complete assignments. We want to be able to do independent learning until virtual starts, as well as changing the virtual option to end December 17th until the vaccines are released for ages 5 to 12. We want the protocols from last year. We are confused about why we are having to petition the board to take measures to protect our students when you should have already taken these steps we are requesting. The pandemic is still happening and with a more contagious variant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Stephen Beckman.
Thank you. This board heard from multiple educators last week citing specific concerns about the proposed virtual option. Others will speak tonight voicing similar concerns. Multiple questions from multiple people about the plan have gone unanswered despite repeated attempts to contact board members. Some emails have been completely ignored while others receive a dismissive reply such as, quote, "Thank you for your input." Thank you for your input is not an adequate response to an email asking for answers to over 20 well-reasoned, thoughtful questions about practical issues HEB ISD will encounter with a virtual plan. It's clear that you do not have the answers to what is being asked. As a parent, I feel it is my right to know exactly what the plan is and how it is going to impact the learning of my first grader. As of this morning, an email correspondence from a board member indicates that there is no formal plan that the board will vote on, rather just the approval of a virtual plan that the superintendent will ultimately be responsible for designing and implementing. This email states, quote, "The board will receive reports, but the day-to-day operation of the program is his to design." Okay. So I will leave you all with this thought, which is how I replied to that email, just so everyone here is clear as to where we stand with this. Okay, when the board votes later to approve the plan, which I roundly expect will happen based on past behavior, you will do so without having a clear plan for what the virtual learning will look like, without heeding the advice of teachers and professionals who have attempted to contact you with concerns that you don't have answers for, without having time to fully analyze the financial impact of the plan on the proposed budget, and in the face of data that suggests that current COVID mitigating procedures are working in our district. I know I speak for others when I say that this isn't acceptable. And we deserve better, regardless of where you stand on this issue. We at least deserve for the board to make an informed decision. There is no plan to vote on. And I have another minute, so I'd like to also bring up some data here, and you guys can do this on your own time. But the virus spread tab, you'll see that that's on page 1 of the Tarrant County dashboard. Do a little bit of research there. That R naught number that was mentioned has gone down for 4 consecutive reporting periods. Right now it is at 0.93, which is less than 1, which indicates that the virus spread in our county is decreasing. 4 consecutive weeks of the virus spread decreasing. We are at 0.5% positive COVID cases in our district, despite Delta being as contagious as we all hear it to be, and as bad for kids as we hear it to be. We have a 0.5% positivity rate. Put positively, that means 99.5% of HEB students are able to attend school because they do not have a COVID positive diagnosis. Okay, that's data, and there's plenty of others. TEA guidance has widely stated that we don't need to clean surfaces anymore because it is not transmissible off the surfaces. There's all sorts of things I could go on, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is, I believe, Karen Pruitt.
Good evening. Thank you. This is the last time I'm probably going to do this, I promise. As an instructional specialist, my passion is instruction. I want our students to learn, to grow, and recover educational losses as quickly as possible. I understand the concern for health and safety. I do. I have twin third graders at Meadow Creek. I've had a letter and an email and a letter and an email almost every day since we got back to school. I worry, I get it. But I also have the data that shows that we can support maintaining in-person learning. Yes, we have cases. I'm not denying that. We have cases, but our students are recovering and they're returning. We have data supporting that virtual learning was not successful for our students last year. We have second grade students that don't know how to hold a pencil, form their letters correctly. Some of them haven't been in a classroom since March of their kindergarten year. There's no time in the upcoming curriculum and years for them to regain how to form letters without sacrificing that year's curriculum. If these same students go back online, I fear they will never recover. Retaining students is not the answer. The TEKs continue to progress, but there is such a foundational loss that being successful almost becomes impossible, especially when the very people that we have hired to help close the gaps are going to be pulled to teach virtually. These campus teachers hired with ESSER funds are already playing an instrumental role on our campuses. They were handpicked based on their strengths and backgrounds to do a very specific job. It is really difficult for me to understand how we can, for lack of a better word, sacrifice one group of students for another. And I know deep down that's not what we're doing, but that's what it feels like sometimes. How do we put their instructional plan on hold? I worry that the virtual curriculum, especially in K through 2, will not be as robust. We have an amazing reading adoption through Fountas and Pinnell classroom that was purchased 3 years ago, maybe. However, according to the Fountas and Pinnell website, the products that have been available to virtual learners ceased to be available on June 30th of this year, I assume due to licensing or copywriting. Without access to this, what is the workaround? Will new curriculum be written? How will this impact the teachers when these students return to the classroom having missed 8 weeks or 12 weeks of that critical reading instruction? I just encourage us to just pause and take time, hire the right teachers with the right curriculum so that everyone can benefit from this situation. Sometimes good leaders have to do nothing rather than do the wrong thing. And hear me, I know my time is up, but I just want you to hear me say that regardless of how this plays out, I'm going to continue to love and serve and care for the students of HEB as I have for 28 years.
Thank you. Next speaker is Adam Lacey.
Hi, I'm Adam Lacey, parent to a 5th and 6th grader at Bedford Heights. And just as we're considering this temporary virtual classroom option, I just asked the board to, consider this as costs and benefits. Everywhere in life we have to evaluate our risks, and we can't just drop the costs and not consider them. So those have to be part of the equation. And just looking at the benefits of this option. So, this is implied that this will somehow reduce the spread of COVID-19 and infection in our elementary school kids. And so we have to ask ourselves on day 521 of 15 days to slow the spread, do we really control spread of an airborne respiratory virus? How much control do we really have? We know that schools are not a primary driver of transmission. We know that young children transmit at a lower rate than older age groups. We know that transmission, majority of it occurs in the household, so there's an argument of maybe the virtual learning option is going to increase transmission from that. We already heard how the rate of transmission is below that magic number of 1, meaning community cases in Tarrant County are actually going down. The cases are going down overall. Case positivity has gone down for 7 straight days. Hospitalization rate growth has gone down for 7 straight days. And we can also observe that we're just seeing a normal seasonal pattern of how COVID affects us. We saw this last year. And so it doesn't seem like, this particular option is really going to do anything for controlling spread when it's already on its way down. And so now we have to consider the cost. And so I think, we've heard from multiple people how the cost of the students is the most. They bear the biggest burden of this option, where they're choosing a subpar educational option. It's going to put them behind. I think we've also heard, and just to reiterate, the cost of teachers, where it's disrupting their learning plans, it's disrupting their classrooms, and also we're just increasing anxiety and uncertainty to teachers and our students with virtual learning. And then there's a financial cost, which, the 600 or so students that have already expressed interest, or for parents, over the 9 weeks, it's around $1.5 million that this is costing. So how sustainable is that? How long can that be sustained? And choosing this option is likely to increase demand for this option to continue beyond the original planned 9 weeks. And so we can see that the costs are all on our children. And so we have to really ask, is this the right way to go? And then also, I think the rationale for this option that we heard last week when the plan was presented is misguided and based on flawed reasoning. Homebound is already a program that exists for parents that have medical needs with their children, or are overly concerned. And I don't think this level of disruption matches the actual risk to our children. So 2019 flu season, we saw 4 times as many deaths as children that we've seen through this entire 18 plus months of COVID, and nothing near this was ever discussed then, so why now?
All right, thank you. Next speaker is Charlotte Brashears.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Brashears, and I'm from Bedford, Texas. I know COVID-19 is a worldwide pandemic, and it's not just here at HEB. Statistics that if you'll look around at other countries, Israel is one of the highest rates of people that have been getting the vaccination, or I'd call it the shot because it's not a vaccination. And they're already on a Lambda variant, like Lambda. It's not Delta. It's moving on. But anyway, just because it's a variant doesn't mean it's deadly. It means it spreads easier, like the cold or the flu or whatever. Anyway, here's some statistics from Singapore. Singapore has become the first country in the world to perform an autopsy post-mortem, of a COVID-19 body. After a thorough investigation, it was discovered that COVID-19 does not exist as a virus, but rather as a bacteria that has been exposed to radiation and causes human death by clotting in the blood. It was found that COVID-19 disease causes blood clots, which leads to blood clotting in humans and causing blood to clot in the veins, making it difficult for the person to breathe. Because the brain, heart, and lungs cannot receive oxygen, causing people to die quickly. To find the cause of the shortage of respiratory power, doctors in Singapore did not listen to the WHO protocol and performed an autopsy on COVID-19. After doctors opened and carefully examined the arms, legs, and other parts of the body, they noticed that the blood vessels were dilated and filled with blood clots, and also reduced the flow of oxygen in the body, causing the death of the patients. After learning about this research, Singapore's Ministry of Health immediately changed the COVID-19 treatment protocol and gave aspirin to its positive patients. They started taking 100 milligrams and Imromac. As a result, patients began to recover and their health began to improve. Singapore's Ministry of Health evacuated more than 14,000 patients in one day and sent them home. After a period of scientific discovery, doctors in Singapore explained the method of treatment by saying that the disease was a global hoax. It is nothing but intravascular coagulation, blood clots, and a method of treatment, antibiotic tablets,
Okay, thank you.
anti-inflammatory, and take anticoagulants, aspirin.
Okay, Ms. Brashears, your time's up. Thank you.
Take aspirin.
The next speaker is Lindsay Sellers.
Hello, this is my first time, so go easy. My name's Lindsay Sellers. My daughter is in kindergarten at Bedford Heights, and she loves it so much. And I feel like this room is just full of opinions, and I have some of my own, but I don't want to share my opinions. I want us to really ponder what our plan is moving forward. When's the interruption in learning going to stop? This COVID is not going to go away. It's the Spanish flu from 1919. It's always going to be here. We have to figure out a way to live with it and to let our kids go back to normal. And there were almost 73,000 people at the Cowboys game on Saturday. No one was wearing a mask. They were trying to get back to normal. And as far as I know, that wasn't a super spreader event. I don't have the stats. Some of you guys have I don't have the stats, but.
Too early to know.
Oh, okay. So I'll be back at the next one in 2 weeks then and give you the stats on that. So I want school to be normal for my daughter. She's my only one. And I just want her to enjoy the experience. And my best friend works for HEBISD, Karen Pruitt, and she gave an excellent speech. And I love her kids. I love Lindsay Finder's kids. I love a lot of kids that go to HEB, and I just want them to be belly to belly with their friends, to see their friends' faces. I feel like the camaraderie we have in our neighborhood saved some of our kids, because last year when no one was in school, they were face to face. They were swimming with each other. They were smiling and laughing. I feel like the cure is becoming worse than the disease. We have got to give our kids their lives back. And I have a minute, so I'm just going to touch on the mask thing, because I'm not going to sign up again. So if you mandate a mask, you take my daughter's freedom to choose away. If you don't mandate a mask, then you can wear a mask. That's fine. Wear a mask, do you. But if you mandate it, you take away my daughter's freedom to have a free face and to see her friends smile at her. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was the final speaker for open forum number 1. At this time, the board will adjourn into closed session pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.074, and will adjourn to closed session for the purpose of, as described in Section 551.071 to 551.074. Have anything that they want to take off the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will accept the motion.
I move that the board approves the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Please vote. Fred seconded.
I can second again.
I don't have it. Yours is there. There it is.
On the thumbs up, I haven't gotten anything on it. It didn't pop up because it came up on Julie's real quick. You can mark me down as a yay.
Double check the login and make sure you're logged in as yourself.
Is that not you?
Your login's right on the thing there.
That's good.
Fred, show them where it is.
You put me down as a yay?
We good? Okay, so all board members present voted yes, so the consent agenda passes. We have a couple certificates of appreciation passed out this evening. Board Vice President Julie Cole will read off the certificates.
And if y'all don't mind, I'm going to stay right where I am. First off, we have board member, I'm going to start with Fred. Board member Fred Campos. This is a certificate to Lineberger, Goggin, Blair, and Sampson LLP to PR and marketing. It's a $5,000 donation that was towards convocation to make it an uplifting back-to-school experience for HEB ISD employees. Deanne Hollander will accept. Next up, we have Board Member Chris Brown. Multitasking. This is for Teague, Knoll, and Perkins Incorporated to PR and marketing. It's a $1,000 donation towards the same convocation experience for HBI ISD employees.
All right, and we thank those two companies for their donations. They really helped make convocation a great experience. Now we're on to reports and presentations. First up is PTA Council President Update. Ms. Sadler.
Good evening, everyone. I think everyone up here knows me, but for all of you that don't in the audience, my name is Crystal Sadler. I am the HEB ISD Council of PTA's president for my third term. I'm very excited, yay. But we do value our partnership between Mr. Chapman, the PTAs, and the school board in all of our schools. We just wanted to come to you tonight and give you an update. Last year was the first time I think it had ever been done, but we were excited to be here. And we're excited just to brag. I like to brag on our PTAs. So we want to look back first before we start talking about this year, because our PTAs went through everything everybody else did in this crazy upside down, backwards, forward, stress-filled year that we just came out of, and our PTAs rose to that challenge. And it's not really our PTA, it's all of ours. I mean, it's not mine, it's not Harwood Junior High, it's not Spring Garden. I got a lot of Bedford Heights people in here, Meadow Creek people in here. So, but we do want to talk about some of the accomplishments from this last year. So we did start out the year with 27 PTAs in good standing, which is really unheard of this day with Texas PTA, for us all to have good standing just pretty much right out the block. In December, we were so excited. Heather Perry and I were honored to be a part of the organizational meeting for Arbor Creek Elementary PTA. So we now have 28 PTAs. And then later in the year, I was honored to be a part of the reorganization of Trinity Lakes from West Hurst. So they are now officially Trinity Lakes PTA instead of West Hurst as Trinity Lakes. So 28 schools. We had a total of 4,121 PTA members. We earned 78 awards from Texas PTAs. 9 of our schools won a Golden Apple Award, which meant that every full-time staff member joined their PTA.
That's great.
Major accomplishment. We actually, for our district, we won a Golden Apple for our council because each of you and our leadership of HEB ISD joined as a PTA member. So we were very excited to get that award. It doesn't come to every council, so we love having that. Now, we were down as far as our numbers, but everybody was down. We were actually a little bit higher than most. We were about 68% of our membership from the previous year. Most of Texas PTA was under the 50% mark, so we're excited about that. We had 9 of our schools have a higher membership than the previous year. 3 of those were earning a 3-year high, so they hadn't had that high in 3 years. So very, very excited. Our reflections programs, there are millions of students that have found creative outlet in the areas of dance, film, literature, music composition, photography, and visual arts. In HEB, we had 13 students move from the local council and then on to state in those programs. And the theme for last year was I Matter Because. These students were from kindergarten through 12th grade. But our most exciting thing was, if you've seen anything on Facebook, you've probably seen this because we've celebrated it for a while now. Daisy Householder. She is one of our she was an 8th grade student at Central Junior High. She is a special needs student, and she not only went from Central Junior High to council to state to national PTA. And then through Texas PTA, she won an award that was called, I always get this mixed up, so it was the Outstanding Interpretation in the Theme of Special Artist category. So she was celebrated about 6 weeks ago at Texas PTA's brunch. She was one of 7 students across the state to win that. It was, we were in tears. We were very proud. We're very much in tears. Her mother is actually, Pamela Householder is a PTA president at Central Junior High this year. So, you know, PTA runs strong in that family. Within our PTAs in HEB, we have supported our schools, our students, teachers, and families, even from afar. PTAs found new ways to reach their families and communities. Like most of the world, they were forced online. But you know what? We found some unique ways to do that. Bedford Heights hosted a mask reader night. It's like, that just sounds cool, just because I like watching the TV show, Masked Singer. Viridian came up with some unique ways to celebrate and to work together, doing online cooking classes, yoga, and meditation. Harwood started a Coffees with the Principal. So once a month, whoever wanted to be there as a PTA member got to have a little online discussion with the principals at Harwood. So we have found all kinds of ways. We have had mental health nights. Trinity has their annual How to Pay for College online. So we want to make sure that those kids are moving up and going into the online, or going into college, and how to pay for that. We, as a council with multiple PTAs, hosted a district-wide event online to discuss the importance of internet safety, so vital in this day and time. And that was with a national internet safety expert, Katie Greer. We had over 110 parents and community members who joined online for this event. I actually had to up my Zoom account for that one. There were PTAs that didn't just stay online. Lakewood was amazing and came up with a fun week for health and fitness. They started a scavenger hunt. So they would post pictures online of footballs and maybe an idea of where it was. And kids would go out and find those footballs, and they would take them home. And there was little trophies hidden around the school. That was a week-long celebration. Loved watching that. I was like going through Facebook looking for it every day. Several of our PTAs hosted drive-through celebrations, drive-through trunk or treat, even a drive-through hot chocolate with Santa. And they made sure to include a holiday light tour so that you could go out with your families. They did all this while still providing encouragement to the staffs with chalkboard or sidewalk chalk art, welcoming them, encouraging them. They did meals and snacks and a variety of other things. I could go on and talk about our amazing PTA boards because they've done all kinds of things. And they still do the yearbook. And they still do, you know, this program. And if a teacher needs something, they'll still fill that gap there. I know as a PTA president, I've gotten calls, hey, you know, can we have, I need like 3 gallons of glue. I'm like, what? Like $25 a pop? Oh, okay, yeah, we'll get that. We need 1,000 popsicle sticks because we're building bridges. Can you help us out? Yes, we'll help you out. Those are the kind of things that our PTAs do. Our HEB ISD Council of PTA clothes closet. That is such a near and dear to so many people's heart. We already had a young man earlier tonight talk about giving socks to the clothes closet. We have remained open throughout this COVID year. And we had changes. We had massive changes. Joyce Ryder, our beloved Joyce, who had been over the clothes closet for 15 years, retired last summer. So then we had one person, and then she got a job with the district. I can't imagine. So then we needed to fill in. So I jumped in, other volunteers jumped in. We had people coming from the different boards, picking up laundry, taking it home, washing it, because we couldn't get it all done, because we've washed about 400 loads of laundry this year. We have seen 755 students, even in a COVID year. We gave out over 21,000 items of clothes, of socks, brand new undergarments, brand new shoes to these kids that are in need. If you don't know about the clothes closet, come talk to us. We would love to share about the clothes closet. Your kids are outgrowing stuff, bring them to us, because I bet you we need some pants, always need pants, especially boys' pants, because there are kids in need in this district that we want to help. We have had over 73 volunteers put in over 1,100 hours this last year. So it takes a little bit of work to keep that going. But we had our PTAs jump in, just like the young man earlier with getting our socks. We started a Seats and Feets drive. So we wanted new socks, new undergarments to be able to give to these kids. With that, we had 14 of our 28 schools participate. They donated 9,936 items, with Hurst Junior High being our top giver. They were very proud. They were pushing it. 2,875 items came from just one school.
Wow.
From Hurst Junior High. So we're doing big things. Our PTAs are doing big things. Now, looking at this year, over the summer, our council has done extensive training. We've had our council board orientation. Myself, I've attended a weekend-long training called Lone Star that is required by Texas PTA. We have 16 council board members. We haven't had that many. It's almost a full slate. But we're looking for a couple more. If anyone wants to do book swap, we got a place for you. Come on and see me. But we have those 16 individuals have a combined over 100 years of experience that we are bringing to HEB ISD Council. And we are excited, and we love what we do.
Sophie's excited.
Yeah, can you tell? I had somebody, side note, somebody at launch, we just attended launch a few weeks ago, and somebody said, I need to come over to your table because I don't know what you're saying, but I want to hear what you're saying. I said, well, because I'm a little animated, so, because I love what I do. I love our schools, I love our students, I love our families. And we love our board members. We did have, like I said, we did attend launch. We had almost 60 members of our local PTA board members that attended the leadership program at the Gaylord and Grapevine. Now for this year, we know we're not completely back to normal. We're working on getting there. We're excited, but to see those kids' faces as we're at Meet the Teacher and we're at New Trojan and New Spartan Nights and all these things, just to see the kids, and they're excited and they want to be here and we want to be there for them. So we're still having to be a little creative. That's okay. We're up for the task. Because the men and women that do this have a heart that they want to give back to their kids. They're worried about their mental health. I know, Rochelle, that's a big thing on your heart, and that's on mine. And we're actually, council-wise, we are looking at bringing a program to our families to understand more about the mental health of our kids, because we have a hard time as adults understanding all of this. Kids have incredibly a hard time understanding what this is. I have two. I almost lost a son, not from COVID, but from the other aspect. I worry about their mental health. So we want to be there for them. You know, if you ask any PTA board member why they PTA, they generally will say, well, it started because I needed to make sure my kid was behaved and my teachers knew they need to see this face so that when my kid gets in trouble, they can find this face.
Yeah.
But over time, it evolves. It evolves into so much more than that. It evolves into that we do what we do because we want these kids to learn what it means to be a leader, what it means to be a part of something. We want to support our teachers and our staff, and we want to bring the programs to our school that are meaningful to our schools. But most importantly, we want to advocate for our students. So we've urged the PTA boards to get creative. We do have goals. We would love for 100% of our schools to be Golden Apple schools. I can tell you, Spring Garden has already met their Golden Apple, because I know that some of them back here have to give their shout outs back here. So they've already met that.
I saw that on Facebook.
We as a council want to meet that, so I am asking you each to join PTA. We have a program that we've designed that you can join every single one with one check. Mr. Chapman's already done that, Ms. Cole's already done that, Dr. Harrington's already done that, and we appreciate you for doing that. So I do have forms. I always have forms. But we want you to back the future of our kids. I mean, that's what we're all here for. We wouldn't be sitting here in this meeting if we didn't think it was important about our kids. And I am going to mention something about our ambassadors. 2 of the ambassadors that were up here are actually members of the PTA board.
Awesome.
So Annie Davenport is the membership VP at Trinity, and Madison Metcalf is the membership VP at Bell. So we're encouraging because we want to teach these kids to be leaders. That was one of the pride and joys that I started at Spring Garden was actually a leadership program for our kids. Put the phone down and go do something for somebody else. It's usually how I got people to sign up for their kids to do that. Like I said, we do look forward to another year. We're going to take the challenge as we do. We're going to advocate for the kids. We ask all of you to join a PTA, joinpta.org. You can go join the one school, or you can see me and we can sign you up for all of them. So just know that I'm here, Heather's here, Deontay's here. We've got several council board members in the room. We are here to support all of you, and all the children of HEB ISD. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you for that great report, and we know that we have so many meetings where donation after donation is given by PTAs to their schools, and we know how much the PTAs in this district support the schools, and it's just a healthy PTA is, I think, a sign of a healthy campus and a healthy district. So, thank you so much. Employments, resignations, and retirements.
I just wanted to share with you a vacancy report update. And so we are currently sitting at 13.5 elementary vacancies, and that does include 2 ESSER positions. We have 16 secondary teaching vacancies, and that includes 7 ESSER vacancies. And we have 20 teacher assistant vacancies. We also have 39 vacancies in our child nutrition services, and that is even after hiring, have 5 hires that are in process as we speak. And then we have 18 transportation vacancies, and we have 25 custodial vacancies. So just want you to be aware that we are still continuing to attempt to fill those, and I will also let you know that that matches the data that I'm receiving from colleagues in other districts. And the other thing I'll quickly mention is that this will be the last time you'll see this item under reports. until next summer because employments will now move back in September to an action item that you will approve as our board policy allows the superintendent to do so during the summer months. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How many child nutrition were there? As of today, we have 39 and 5 hires that are in process. Yes.
Any questions? Thank you, Cicely. All right, any questions about disbursements for the month July 2021? Okay. All right, we are to item 11.01, presentation of the 2021-2022 budget. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you very much, members of the board. We've gone through this process. We started in May, had an update in June, and then an additional update at the July meeting, and then as well as the first August meeting, August 9th. And so we are now ready to bring to you our final proposed budget. Stephen Jones will provide the report to you tonight, and we're all available here to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, so the 2021-2022 proposed budget. Okay, so the public meeting was called at the board work session on August 9th. The notice was put in the paper on August 12th. And the state law requires that 3 funds are approved. That's the general fund, the child nutrition fund, and the debt service fund. And at the board's discretion, we've chosen to do the pre-K core knowledge fund as well. And if approved, these are considered the original budget in the annual audit. The schedule for our budget, we started in January. We do our new to budgeting class we did it on January 20th this year. And then our campus and department budgets were due on February 26th. ELT reviewed the budget in April. Board began reviewing the budget in May. And then the 21-22 salary schedule was approved at the June 14th board meeting. And then we received our certified tax roll on July 21st. The Board of Trustees accepted the certified tax roll on August 9th, as well as approved the notice for the public meeting, and also set the meeting to conduct the public hearing of the budget and proposed tax rate. And then tonight's the public hearing for the budget and proposed tax rate. Okay, we'll start with the general fund. This is the district operational budget. This is what pretty much everything runs through. The primary revenue is going to be off the local property taxes and state funding. Okay, those are determined by state funding formula. The primary factors are going to be enrollment and local property values. A couple of other sources are interest, athletics, federal, some miscellaneous other things. So enrollment for the year, as you can see, the enrollment was projected to be 22,932 this year, down 30 from last year. As you can see, that big drop from the 2 years ago. As of Friday, we were at 22,733 students. That was 199 short of this projection. If the increase from the second Friday to fall PEAMS snapshot is the same as last year, we gained 219 kids last year from this point on. So we would make that projection. In past years, those numbers were more like 37 and 86. So if we did that again, we won't meet that number. Property values for the district did go up by 6.9% to $17 billion. And so using those and plugging those numbers into a formula, we came up with an M&O tax rate of 92.52 cents. And then based on that number, our local values for revenue is expected to be $152,279,000. And this is an increase of $3.6 million from last year. Interest income staying about $300,000. Total local revenue of $154 million on there, so an increase of $3.6 million, same as the total for the tax revenues, which is a 2.4% increase over last year. State revenue, on the other hand, like a teeter-totter, whenever we go up on local values, our state revenue does go down. So we're expecting $46 million in state revenue for the year, which is a decrease of $6.2 million from last year. A transition grant of $12 million on there. And then we're estimating that the increase of our TRS on behalf will go up to 9.3 due to some percentage increases that the state has on there. which gives us the total state revenue budget of 55 million, which is a decrease of just a little over 6 million, which is a 9.8% decrease. Federal revenue, we're looking at a budget of a little over $2 million. Our biggest portion of that is our indirect costs that we're gaining due to the ESSER funds. Other sources being sale of property and transfer from other funds of $900,000. So this was what our projection looked like last year at this time. You're looking at 69% local, 28% state. This year it's increased to 72% local and only 26% from the state. This is a look at it over the years. As you can see, for the most part, the local portion just keeps getting larger and larger on there. Total revenue budget for the 21-22 budget year is a little over 212 million. This is a decrease of 708,000 from the original budget last year. It's a decrease of 3.5 million from the current 2020-21 amended budget. On the expenditure side, in June of 2021, the board approved a 2% raise package. We've also added 4 additional pre-K teachers, 4 additional pre-K teacher aides, and then 2 units for the Reading Academy cohort leaders. And also this included a reduction of 32 teachers due to the lower enrollment numbers. So we're looking at a total expenditure budget of $199,666,546. This is a decrease of $1.7 million from last year's original budget and a decrease of $10 million from the current budget. As you can see, payroll is still the largest portion of it at 87%, 6% to professional services, a little under 5% to supplies, and then 2% to other operating costs. By a functional category, instruction's making up the largest portion of this at 130 million. Instructional support at an additional 31 million. District operations at 31.6 million, and then central administration at 6.5 million. So as you can see, revenue and other resources is 212 million. Expenditures and other uses is also 212 million. So the proposed budget is a balanced budget. The Child Nutrition Fund, which is used for our breakfast and lunch programs, this budget was based off of what she thought numbers were going to be before they decided to go free on all the lunches and breakfasts. So you're going to see local and state revenue, or local and federal revenue both in here. So she budgeted originally 3.2 million, which was a decrease of 347,000, and then a federal of 9.6 million. We'll need to amend that one once we know our numbers a little bit better, kind of like you'll see tonight on the final budget amendment, where it's more of a transfer in from another fund due to the free breakfast and lunch program. If it had gone without the free, it would have been 74% federal, 25% local, which was in line about with where it's been every year for the last several years. On the expenditure side, the budget's just a little over $14 million, a decrease of $780,000 from last year, and that does include $1.5 million for capital expenses such as serving lines and things at elementaries. For this overall budget, you're looking at 52% supplies. That includes the food cost in there, and then 32% in payroll. It is a deficit budget of $1.2 million. Most of that's due to those capital expenditures. We do have a fund balance of $4.8 million in there as of last August, and she is required to, by the state, to get that down to a fund balance of 3 months. So that's what she's trying to do, is try to bring that down to that allowable amount. Our debt service fund is used to account for payments of principal and interest on our bonds. So our 2020-2021 budget is $36.7 million. $21.4 million of that for principal, $15 million for interest. So as you can see, 58% of that's for principal, 42% in interest right now. And with that, the proposed tax rate would be 0.2356, with an expected collections of $35.8 million. And then with the additional interest and a little bit of state revenue in there, $36.7 million. So for our proposed tax rate, it would be a 2021 proposed tax rate of $1.1608. That'd be M&O of 0.9252, INS of 0.2356, which is a decrease of .0372 from last year. As you can see, it's been decreasing for the last several years as we've been going. And the final fund we have here is the Pre-K Core Knowledge Fund. This is a tuition-based program with 4 classes, 2 at Veridian, 1 at Spring Garden, and 1 at Meadow Creek. For this year, we do have a revenue budget of $530,000, an expenditure budget of $515,000, so a little bit of a surplus there of $15,000, which, as you're going to see earlier, a little bit later tonight with the budget transfer, they are a little bit in the hole, so this hopefully will help a little bit with that. Now let's see, the payroll budget of that one is 90% of their total budget, so almost everything is in payroll for that program right now. Okay. Any questions about any of that?
Any questions on the budget?
Well, I have a couple of points, and mostly talking to the board here. And I want to try to explain my frame of reference, why I'm coming at the budget the way that I am. I haven't gone through a budget session with the school board yet. My only experience is on the city council level. And this was the city council budget. And this is our budget and our budget report. And so it struck me when I got this, the glaring differences between the budgeting process that I've gone through before and the budgeting process that I'm now going to go through. Now, I'm under no illusion that we can compare these two budgets as a apples to apples comparison. There are many differences in the way that the school districts are funded and the way the cities are funded. But the difference is the amount of detail and the transparency that's in this budget that's not in this budget. Now, while I say that, this school budget meets or surpasses every single state law requirement that we operate under. It is no different than every other school district's budget in every corner of the state. We're not doing anything any differently than anybody else. And I also don't think we're doing anything poorly. We're not doing anything wrong. There's nothing in here that makes me think we're doing anything improper. The problem is I don't know where all the money is going. You know, I went through the May budget session, just like everybody else, and I made it very clear that I wasn't comfortable with what was presented in May. And when the budget gets presented, I was really hoping to see some more numbers. And there are more numbers here in this budget report. But let me give you some, I just want to give you some examples of the issues that I have, and then I've got proposed solutions that I'd like you all to consider going forward, not for tonight, but going forward. If you'll look at the budget report with me, if you'll look at page 28. This shows all of the expenditures by function and object. And setting aside payroll, this is as detailed as we get down into the budget. So we've got $12 million for professional and contracted services. We've got $9.5 million for supplies and materials, $4 million for other operating costs, and then we have that broken down function and object. I don't know where any of that, any more than that, I don't know where the money is being spent. We're getting to that number somehow, but I have absolutely no idea how. I don't know where the money's being spent until we get the disbursement report. So we've got to pass the budget to know what's in it. And I'm not looking at payroll, I'm only looking at the other categories. If you flip one more to page 31 to 32, and this is where I think we can be provided some more information very easily. If you look at the second part of this sheet, it's the total central office requests. These are budget requests. These are non-payroll requests. $29 million of central office requests, And if we shine a light on the school board, we've got a school board budget of $187,524. And just looking at this document, I have no idea what we're paying for. Now we came to this number by adding other numbers together because we know what we're going to be purchasing. I know many of you probably know what those funds are, and I'm learning what they are. But if you look at this budget, or if any members of the public look at this, they have no idea why the school board is budgeting $187,524. That doesn't include any payroll. It's a lot of money there there's no explanation. And you can go down the line here. There's $667,000 for the superintendent. There's $1 million for the tax office. There's $2.1 million for HR. There's $950,000 for technology services. There's $297,000 for business operations. $1.3 million for educational operations. There's $490,000 for elementary curriculum, which is a $1 million decrease from last year, and there's no explanation why. People who put these numbers together know why, but I don't know why, and the public doesn't know why because it's not in this budget. There's $619,000 for secondary curriculum. That's almost a $500,000 decrease. There's $763,000 for visual and performing arts, and that's a decrease of $100,000. And I don't know why. There's probably a very, very good explanation. I don't doubt the numbers, and I don't doubt how we got to them. Has a rationale, but it's not shown in this budget. It's not shown to the public. There's a $1.3 million for athletics, $8.6 million for central services, $1.9 million for maintenance. That's just a snapshot. All of these numbers, I believe, can be justified. But the problem is I got this on Friday afternoon. I looked through it all Saturday morning. I looked through it Sunday night. I had a meeting this morning at 7:30 to try to justify these numbers. Please put together some numbers. I was begging them in May to give me numbers. I asked, can I please get the budget as soon as you have it ready? And I got it on Friday afternoon. I don't think that we can do due diligence with the budget that we get on Friday afternoon and be expected to vote for it on Monday. You know, we are the governmental entity that makes up the largest portion of every property owner's tax bill in Tarrant County. And I think that we owe it to everybody to have a more transparent budget than this. And I think that there's a way to do it. I'm not bringing this up tonight to ask you not to vote for the budget. We've got to vote for a budget. There's too much in here that we have to fund. I'm not advocating against the budget for you to vote against the budget or to, for anything else to happen other than pass this budget because we have to by August 31st. But I am trying to start a conversation that we can have going into next year's budget that there may be some very low-hanging fruit that we might be able to do. Whether it's a team of 8 session, whether it's a work session just on the budget, whether it's a work session before a regular session, we as a board, since I've been here since May, as the budget is finally reaching the end of it being put together, we have not had a conversation as a board. This is the very first time. And I think having the conversation on the night that we're going to vote on the budget does an injustice to the budget. So that's the first thing I would like to see us consider is get together as a board and discuss the budget and where our priorities lie and how we fund it based on our priorities. I know that has been done in the past. We've gotten away from that onto one-to-one meetings. But I really think that the questions that I would ask in a one-on-one meeting, hopefully someone would get some value on it, and they're going to be questions that you're going to ask that I'm not going to even think of. I really do think that we're better together rather than separating us out individually to have the budget meetings. So that's my first suggestion. My second suggestion would be, can we work to see how much deeper we can get past the function and object level? This goes all the way to a line item for every single department. I'd love to get there. Maybe we don't get there. Maybe we get somewhere in the middle. But I think there needs to be more justification than just an object and function level when we're dealing with this amount of money. This is a $212 million budget, and I think it deserves more than an object and function level. Not that we need to pass it. I understand state law that we pass on a function level, but we have to have the underlying data to understand how we even get there, because that justifies those numbers. And I'd like to see the projected fund balances for all of our funds, because that dictates some of what we do in the general fund, in the CK pre-K fund, in the bond fund, and in the food services fund. A wider snapshot of our financial house will do a good job for us to be able to implement and stand by the budget that we ultimately pass. And I think that is low-hanging fruit. I think that would be a start. I think that would be a step in the right direction. You know, part of the justification that we had last week on why we would go and do enrollment for virtual is because we said we needed the numbers. And we said we cannot make a quality decision until it's an informed decision. I don't think that there is an informed decision in what we have currently in front of us. I think there's a lot more information that we could get, and I think we owe it to ourselves, and I think we owe it to the taxpayers. If it's good enough to demand numbers on, you know, $1 million virtual program, I think it's good enough to demand numbers on a $212 million budget. And I say all of that just to start a conversation. It doesn't need to be tonight. I don't expect us to vote down the budget tonight. I'm not advocating to vote down the budget tonight. This is the same budget that has been put together for many years in the recent past. I think that if we don't have this discussion at some point, it will never happen. And so I thought this would be as good a night as any to bring it up. And hopefully y'all can ruminate on that and think about it, and hopefully we can have that discussion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Any other questions about the budget? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jones. So this is a public meeting to discuss the budget and the tax rate. So I declare this public meeting now open to hear comments concerning the presentation of the budget and proposed tax rate for 2021-2022. Does anybody have anything they'd like to come to the podium to discuss about the budget? All right, seeing none, if there's no further discussion, I now close this public meeting. All right. Now we're down to action items. We had nothing removed from the consent agenda, so we will be looking at the approval of settlement agreement. All right, I will accept the motion.
In regard to TEA docket number 122-SE-0321, I move that the board approve the terms of the mediation agreement reached in this matter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second in regards to TEA docket number 122-SE-0321 to approve the terms of the mediation agreement reached in this matter. Please vote. And that motion passes. Item 13.03, approval of out-of-state, out-of-country student travel. Looks like there's a trip for LD Bell for the cheer students. Any questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approves the out-of-state student travel as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The board approve the out-of-state, out-of-country student travel as presented. Please vote. That motion passes. The next item is approval of resolution approving 2020-2021 application of GASB 54. Are there any questions? I will accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the resolution approving 2020-2021 application of GASB 54 standards.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the resolution approving 2020-2021 application of GASB 54 standards. Please vote. That motion passes. Next item is approval of final 2020-2021 budget amendment request. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, sir. So I have provided you with the Friday update on the final amendment. Just a couple of things that I just want to point out on that update were the ESSER funds, because those are different than what we've seen in the past, quite frankly, because of all the stimulus funds that were provided during the CARES Act process. And so through that, with ESSER 2, we're being provided a significant amount of resources, about $13.5 million. And most of that's going to be a reclassification of expenses from general fund to the special revenue fund to charge those expenses there for those federal dollars that we receive. So that's the reason you see the big negative number of $7,191 reduction to instruction. And that's the biggest change. Also, the next one up is a $4.5 million reduction, and that's because we're going to see a reduced ADA count for that supplanting of federal dollars into the foundation school program. And any other questions I would be happy to answer as far as the amended budget.
Are there any questions on the budget amendment request? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
I move that the board approves the final 2020-2021 budget transfer and amendment requests.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approves the final 2020-2021 budget transfer and amendment request. Please vote.
Can't see it.
That's final amended budget.
That's what we want to
see. And that motion passes.
Give Ty a lot of grace tonight. She's doing great.
All right, next is approval and adoption of the 2021-2022 budget. Mr. Garcia.
We had our public hearing, so now we're just set to adopt the budget.
All right, is there any further discussion? I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the 2021-2022 revenue and expenditures budget for the general fund, the food service fund, and the debt service fund as required by law, and the revenue and expenditure budget for the pre-K core knowledge.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approves the 2021-2022 revenue and expenditure budgets for the general fund, the food service fund, and the debt service fund as required by law, and the revenue and expenditure budget for pre-K core knowledge. Please vote. That is approved. Okay. All right. Item 13.07, approval to set the 2021-2022 tax rate. Ordinance number 157. Again, we've had the hearing, so is there any discussion? I will accept the motion.
I move that the board moves the property tax rate to increase the adoption of a tax rate of 1.1608, which is effective an 8.68% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 1.1608, which effectively a 8.68 increase in the tax rate. And that motion passes. Item 13.08, approval of the RFQ 2107 Architectural Services.
Yes, sir. I provided you also with a Friday update with respect to all the process that we undertook in the selection of the final four candidates that are being presented to you tonight. We have two representatives here tonight. We have a representative from Corgan and also a representative from HKS that are here with us tonight. But just to sum up the process that we undertook, we requested RFQs through an open request and received 20 applications. We narrowed the field down to 8 and then selected 4 of those 8 to be qualified by the Board of Trustees as we move forward with any future construction projects. Yes, sir. The makeup of the committee were 3 board members and the superintendent.
All right. Are there any questions on this item?
I don't have any questions. I was one of the board members, and it was so well organized that it made it easy to go in and just be able to listen and ask the questions. I've never sat on any panel like that. I don't know a lot about architecture. I just know when buildings look pretty when they're done. And I thought that all of the presentations were amazing and well organized. And, David and his team, Cindy, they knocked it out of the park as far as preparing every single thing that we needed. The questions were clear. I think there was just good energy in the room. And I left feeling a huge promise for HEB-ISD and what we get to move forward and do in the next several years with our facilities and getting them up to date and getting some really fun new things going. So I just appreciate Mr. Romero allowing me to be on that panel, and kudos to the staff because you guys knocked it out of the park.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was a really great process. Andy Cargile was also on the committee, so I was very thankful to the board members to accept and sit there for 8 hours and listen to architects. But I find it enjoyable. But I'm not like most people.
I learned a lot. I went home and took a nap. I was exhausted.
All right. So if there's no further questions, I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board qualifies the following architect firms for future services: Corgan Associates, Inc., Glenn Partners, HKS, Inc., and Huckabee.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The board qualifies the following architecture firms for future services: Corgan Associates, Inc., Glenn Partners, HKS, Inc., and Huckabee. Please vote. And that motion passes. And before we move on to the next item, I believe that's the last item on the docket that has Mr. Garcia's name on it. So I just wanted to take a second. Thank Mr. Garcia for, was it 5 years? 5 years of fantastic work and fantastic service to this district. I know he came from a long career at Midland ISD, and I remember the first time I ever went to a conference with David, I realized what a rock star we had, because everybody wanted to come up to him, everybody wanted to talk to him, everybody wanted to ask him questions. So I said, we got the right guy. So thank you so much, David, and best of luck in your retirement, and we hope you come back around and we get to see you some more.
Thanks,
And good luck to you, Dobie, for filling those shoes. Okay, next we are at approval of 2021-2022 staffing table.
And so you received some information, I believe, in the Friday update about this, but just to make sure that you understand that when we started staffing Arbor Creek and Trinity Lakes, we began with a .5 PE assistant. All of our other elementary campuses have a full PE assistant, and we're now at the point where those need to be brought up to speed. So we're adding a .5 at each of those campuses, and we're also adding an LVN, we're asking you to add an LVN tonight as well to take care of some requirements and needs of a particular special education classroom at Bell Manor. Any questions?
Any questions? No questions, I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approves the new units as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the new units as submitted. Please vote. That motion passes. Next item is approval of remote homebound instruction waiver. Dr. Harrington, are there just one questions? Are there any questions on it?
Mr. Chapman, help me.
All right. All right. With no questions, I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approves the remote homebound instruction waiver.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approves the remote homebound instruction waiver. Please vote. That motion passes. Next item is approval of resolution regarding COVID leave for the 2021-2022 school year. Ms. Tuttle?
And this information was also provided in your Friday update, but we've been working on this for several weeks and are very happy to bring to you tonight a resolution requesting that we be able to provide up to 10 days of leave for individuals in our district, employees in our district who are lab confirmed positive. This will not extend at this time to family members, children, et cetera. This is specifically for employees who are lab confirmed to be a positive. But we know that when this occurs, it certainly can dwindle down our employees' leave and exhaust that leave. And they've worked hard, many of them, to get that leave built up. And we don't want that to be the case. I will also point out, as you had in your information in the Friday update, that this would be, upon approval, retroactive back to July the 1st. So anyone in our district, an employee who has utilized leave with a positive, a lab confirmed positive, we will go back and retroactively cover that. I also do want to clarify, since I know we have interested individuals in the audience here, that this is from the date that we receive
a lab confirmed positive. So we are expecting that that is in place before the leave is granted, and we're not going to be able to go back and retroactively pay for leave for the time period when individuals may be waiting for the test. And we feel that this is something that we can cover in our budget and will be significantly less than last year because we will only be dealing with the actual employees, not the close contacts, et cetera. Any questions about this?
No, but I think it's a long time coming. I was telling, I believe, Mr. Chapman, that my company has done this all along for 14 days. So we definitely, I don't know why I didn't even think to bring this up way back when. I guess I just assumed it was already in place.
Well, we did do this for the fall. All employers were required in the fall of last school year. And then when that money ran out from the federal government last December 31st, you all approved to continue it through the spring. But we certainly have established that we have some employees who are having to use their leave and felt like this was something that we were ready to bring to you at
that
this
makes
time.
sense why I didn't bring it up.
Yes,
Okay, 'cause,
exactly.
yeah,
Yep,
this is
you're-
a must.
That's
A
right.
must.
Any questions?
Any other questions? I will accept a motion.
I move that the board adopt the resolution as presented.
Second.
I have a motion, and a second, that the board adopts the resolution as presented. And that motion passes. All right. Consideration approval of temporary virtual classroom option to accommodate instruction for students in kindergarten through sixth grade.
I'm here to answer questions that you may have pertaining to the virtual option. Yes, the enrollment, currently we do have 602 students enrolled. I do have that broken down by grade levels. We have 104 kindergartners, 86 first graders, 82 second graders, 91 third graders, 75 fourth graders, 74 fifth graders, 77 sixth graders. We have a grand total of 14 bilingual students, so that was a very small group. So at this time, based on the numbers that we ran on the cost per day, we do consider $1,186,349.36. We will have some other costs associated with those. We're still evaluating some curriculum. There'll be some other needs, some part-time services that we may have to employ some of our employees to take over. We anticipate this is going to be under $50,000, but just in case there is any curriculum needs, it could max at $100,000. But we think at this point it would be under that amount.
Can I open up for questions, discussion?
Yes.
Is that okay, President Romero?
Yes.
Fellow board members, general public, this particular issue has probably caused me the least amount of sleep is trying to figure out what is best for our district. Harry, Joe, and your team, I appreciate all the work that you guys have put into this. I know this is a very complicated decision for all of us. But in the past 7 days, a lot of things have changed. You guys know that I've been lobbying for some different way to appease our parents in some of the situations that we have and some concerns of our community. 7 days ago, when we were putting this together as probably the only option that HEB-ISD could do legally, a lot has changed. President Romero, thank you for calling a meeting on Friday to discuss masks. I am of the opinion, regardless of whether you're for a mask or against masks, that many of our parents wanted that decision made first in lieu of making a decision for virtual. And their opinions about that may change based on how Friday's discussion goes. As such, in short, I would move that we postpone this decision until the meeting of Friday, August 27th at 5 p.m. Now, the way this works is
All right.
we would have to get a second.
So you made a motion to postpone this item until the meeting.
I make a motion that we postpone this particular item until Friday, August 27th at 5 p.m.
Okay, have a motion to postpone this item until Friday, August 27th at 5 p.m.
Is there no opportunity for additional discussion now that there's a motion on the floor?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to ask another question. I would like to some clarification, for all of us on, with the numbers that we have, the 608? 602. Talk to me about who's doing that teaching. I know we talked about it before, but I'd really like some clarification tonight.
Let me bring Darla Clark up, and she can talk a little more specifically. Darla.
Good evening. I know we spoke last week about this being a concern, who is going to staff the virtual option should it go forward. It is our last resort to pull our instructional specialists, as they're a very integral part of our campus plans. For many reasons, we rely on them. And it's difficult, as we spoke about last week, to pull anyone for the virtual option. But being that we have the 19 ESSER teachers that were hired for intervention, not that we don't need them in person, but we have not had them in the past in our instructional plan, so they were going to be used and would be used beyond this 8-week, 9-week period. Those would be the first individuals that we would look at to staff this program, or we are looking at to staff this program. Beyond that, we do have some positions posted for some virtual teachers. We're hoping to get some individuals hired to round out the number that we would need. Approximately 25 individuals will be needed, depending on exactly how this is split up and how many different services are needed for these students, but we're looking at that right now.
So let me add more information to this. I believe that the making of this decision a week from today doesn't change what we're already doing. I believe that there will be a appeals as well as the Supreme Court here in Texas hearings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so we'll have more data come Friday. I believe that there are some parents out there that would have a different view on virtual learning if there were other options on the table. So I need one other person to at least postpone this decision and discussion until next Friday at 5 p.m. This Friday at 5 p.m. I think we owe it to our general public to at least have this discussion. Even if you are not in favor of this, we could still have this particular item voted on next week.
Okay, so the motion has been made. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this motion to delay?
I have some questions. Joe, of the 602 kids that we've had enrolled in the virtual, how many of those are currently enrolled in our school?
Are they kids that are already enrolled, Chris?
Well, are they enrolled?
34.
34 were or were not?
34 were not currently enrolled. I believe of those, 28 were former students, and we are checking on the other 6.
How many are enrolled but are not included in the warm body count? They're enrolled, but they're not coming to school.
That's the 28.
Well, let me ask you again, because I'm confused. How many of the 602?
They're enrolled. They were students that were They were returning students who did not show up,
28 of them.
28 of them.
The rest of them are in class.
The rest of them are, then we have 6 that we're not former students, so we are checking to see if they are HEB residents, and then the rest are current students.
Okay. How many special education students have we had enrolled of the 602?
I didn't think about asking that question. I just
That's a
would've
good
assumed
question,
they all
yeah.
were enrolled.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we pulled that from.
I'll move on to my next question. We'll come back.
Come back to that.
Let her get it. How many of these 602 are students who fall under House Bill 45 that need accelerated learning opportunities that we're required to provide?
I don't believe we've pulled that yet. They're still researching the kids.
I'd like that
yes.
number for Friday.
Yeah, for
If we're gonna talk about this on Friday, there's a lot more information we're going to need.
Agreed.
If we're gonna push this off on Friday, first of all, I don't know that there's any. I've not been presented anything differently tonight that would change my mind from last meeting. But if we're going to have this discussion, we need some concrete plans for Friday. We need to know exactly who these kids are, what they are going to be required to be taught, what special accommodations we are going to need to make for them, who exactly is going to be teaching these kids, exactly who's going to be teaching them. If we're going to put together a plan this week, we've got to know exactly which teachers and how many classes, how is this going to look? Who are we using? And where are we pulling them from? What schools are they from? Where are these 602 being pulled from? Is it predominantly our Title I schools? I'd like to know that. There's characteristics of these 602 that's going to go into the decision on whether or not we can go virtual. There's absolutely characteristics of the instructors who are going to be providing this instruction that's going to be instrumental in making this decision if we're going to go virtual. I don't mind having the discussion on Friday because we're not at a point tonight to have any idea what this looks like.
Well, and I would also argue, Chris, if mask mandate gets on the table, the number of those needed for that or even offering that may change.
Well, maybe so, but
So we cannot make this discussion about virtual learning until we have had the discussion regarding mask on Friday.
But if this board in a majority vote flips the masks, there will be parents who will not send their kids to school because they're not gonna send them in
Well,
masks.
and
So the numbers are gonna end up the same.
and there may not be a need for virtual.
There's gonna be a lot of people who will pull their kids for the opposite reason.
Well, then, again, that's a good discussion that we should have on Friday. Here's my point. My point, Rochelle, is not the fact that I can't have a virtual discussion decision done intelligently, and I agree with some of what Chris is saying regarding numbers, until we have addressed this particular issue, which is now available to us,
Yeah.
which was not available to us last Friday.
Right.
And we will also have more data to look at.
My point is, COVID is not going away. If we approve any kind of virtual school, it is here through the end of the school year. This is not going away. It's not going away in 12 weeks. It's not going away by December 31st. It's not going away. If we make a decision on this, we have got to look at it way more long-term. Because there's feelings on both sides, mask and no mask, and I think the feelings on both sides are strong. And the number of 602, for me personally, is not convincing enough
Well, what's on the
for
table?
the other 21,000 kids
Is
that we
whether or
have.
not we're gonna postpone this.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
Because it wouldn't change my mind.
Okay, let's see if he still wants.
If he wants it.
but I think all of this needs to be discussed in relation to all things.
Correct.
And right now, there's too many unanswered questions.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to postpone this vote, or this discussion of the vote to Friday, August 27th, 5 p.m. We have a second. Please vote. So what do we do there? 3-3.
Let's have more discussion.
Well,
You want more data anyway. Do we discuss and try again?
well, I think with the failure of a, yeah. Yeah, motion doesn't pass if it's even, so.
Okay.
All right. All right, so now we're back to the original discussion about the virtual classroom option.
We have, Renee has the special ed data.
Okay, so it is definitely something to consider, and we've broken this down by what students receive, because that is very important when you're talking about special ed. If I just gave you full numbers, that doesn't tell you the full picture. 19 of the students that have enrolled are speech-only students, but that is not total of all the students that would need speech therapy that have enrolled. Those are just kids that only receive speech. We have 9 that are mainstream, but that could mean that they have inclusion services with a teacher. We have 15 that have instructional resource minutes. That means they're pulled out of class for support. We have 9 FOSSI students. Those are students with intellectual disabilities that are typically in a special education classroom all day long. And we have 2 students who are in a behavior unit. And we have 13 that have dyslexia services that would be pulled out individually for those services. Any questions?
Thank you.
Those are just kind of broken down completely. I did this for my staff, sorry. I didn't prepare it for you guys, I'm so sorry. We were just looking at specifics today.
Out of the 602, how many are special ed?
52? 52, and dyslexia, some of those may be SPED, some of them may be 504, just depends, but they receive dyslexia services through general education. So they're not part of the 52.
All right,
Thank you.
okay. So if there's no more discussion,
I'd like to add one more comment.
okay.
So, in light of this, we don't have enough data to do this correctly. We now have an option that we will discuss on Friday regarding masks. So parents, I am in favor of virtual, but I am not in favor of doing something good instead of doing something great. So I am not voting in favor of this under the present situation. We might readdress this in the future after our discussion on Friday. So I'm just giving you a heads up that Fred is a no vote for this.
I don't think you need to address the
All right. Well,
And
I will,
if the state will give us funding, if the state will help us out, and I just encourage y'all, you have to call your legislatures. You have to. They're not giving us money for this. And it's not just about the money, but the state has got to help.
Okay.
okay. All right, so I will accept a motion on this item. Yes. Would anybody like to make a motion? Okay, well, lacking a motion. Yeah, it fails.
Can I make a motion to decline it? Is that what I do?
Without a
No,
motion, it fails.
okay. All right, without a motion, the item fails. All right, open forum number 2. All right, the first speaker is Nola Presley. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Savannah Presley, and I'm in the 9th grade at Harwood Junior High. I'm a COVID long hauler, but mind you, I was healthy before any of this ever happened to me. I got COVID first in March of 2020, and I was sick for 3 weeks. Afterwards, I continued to have symptoms that didn't go away, such as chronic pain, migraines, nausea, dizziness, and fatigue. In November of 2020, I got COVID again, but this time I was only sick for 2 weeks, but the consequences were much worse. I started having hyperthyroid symptoms such as palpitations, anxiety, insomnia, and I lost 26 pounds. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism triggered by COVID. My thyroid was in a temporary hyperthyroid state, and I'll have to be on thyroid meds for the rest of my life. Also, after my COVID infection, my legs started turning purple whenever I would stand up and my heart would pound. I was later diagnosed with dysautonomia, also caused by my COVID infection. My legs were turning purple because my blood was pooling in my legs, and my heart would pound because it was working too hard to try and circulate my blood throughout my body. I will be on blood pressure meds also for the rest of my life. I also have to wear compression socks, drink 2 liters of water a day, and take salt tablets to keep my blood volume up. And on top of this, I also have to take nerve pain and nausea meds. I did virtual school all of last year because of what COVID did to my body. I tried to come back this year, but my body just couldn't handle it, and I'm having to go back to online school. Please add a mask mandate so that no other kid has to go through what I went through. My doctors at Cook Children's say that I am not the only one in this situation. There are many, many kids with long-term health effects from COVID, and there will be many more if you don't do something about this right now. I care way too much to see another kid end up like me, end up in the hospital, or worse. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Corey Burns. Is Corey Burns here? Okay. Rick Dorsey. Rick Dorsey. Anna Preda, or Preda, sorry.
Hello, my name is Anna Preda. I'm a parent of 2 elementary age students in HEB schools. I'd like to start off with a quote because that's how I roll. Nelson Mandela once said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. I ask you to think about that as I share some of my other thoughts. We moved to HEB to Hurst 6 years ago when our oldest child went into kindergarten because we wanted to be part of this school district. We went to our school and we fell in love with our teachers, with the staff, with our principal who used to greet all the children at the front door by their first name. We love this district. We tell everybody we know that they should move here because we love this school district. If you guys had commercials for HEB, my family would be on there. We love this place. Last year, I couldn't be more pleased with HEB. There really were no perfect options. You could send your kids to school. You could keep them home with virtual. There was problems with both for all kinds of different reasons that you're all aware of. My family chose to stay online because I work at a hospital in Dallas with vulnerable people. I didn't want my children to bring COVID home to me that I would then take to my patients. I didn't want to bring COVID home with me to my children that they would then take to school. Our amazing teachers at our school helped us get through the year. Our children mastered, the one who had to take STAR mastered, and we were very proud of that considering how challenging virtual school is for kids, especially with mental health. When the infections went down this summer, we were thrilled. We were so excited to come back to school. And when we got to meet the teacher night and we saw our teachers, we were even beyond thrilled, so happy to see our friends again, to see everybody. But I was really disturbed by some of the things that I didn't see. I followed the headlines. I know there's not going to be a mask mandate, at least then there wasn't, and I'm okay with that. I understand how that works. But the lack of other safety measures in the school were really kind of upsetting to me. We have only been in school for 5 days, and we received our first close contact notification for my 3rd grader. Today we received one for my 6th grader. Cook Children's Hospital released a 10-point plan for schools to safely reopen. My question for you is, how many of those recommendations did you implement? In my house, a 70% is a failing grade. So if you implemented less than 7 out of 10, we have failed. Our teachers, I believe, some are exhausted, just like I am as a social worker. So many of the doctors that I work with, the nurses, we all want this thing to end. We just want to be free and like we were again. But we can't do that unless we work together. And I believe that HEB can be a shining example. We can educate families about safety. We can educate families about vaccination. We can make that easier. We can make mask wearing less stigmatized. We can role model and encourage. I know my time is up and I'll be back on Friday. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to mess up this next name. Stovanovic Igor?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Igor Stojanovic. I'm an alumni of LD Bell High School. Go Blue Raiders. You can tell the bias there. I'm here to kind of just remind everybody and go over the best practices of COVID as outlined by Miss, I apologize if I butcher her last name, Miss Joy Kehoe. I believe she's the nurse for HEB ISD. First is treat everyone as if they have coronavirus, maintain a social distance of 6 feet. Second, wash your hands frequently during the day, at least for 20 seconds, especially before eating or touching your face. I know we all sometimes forget to do that, but that's really important. The virus does like to attach to our lungs, and it gains entry to our body through our eyes, nose, and mouth. If we are not touching those areas, it helps us to prevent contracting the virus. Once again, I know it's hard, easier said than done, but we should try our best to do that. Third, disinfect frequently used areas in your home and workspace. Once again, we want to try to cut down on all those touch points. If we have to touch them, we want to sanitize after ourselves. Fourth, always cough or sneeze into a tissue. Immediately throw that tissue away into the trash can. Wash your hands again for 20 seconds. And the last thing, if you do show any signs of illness, which can include, but it's not all inclusive, fever, cough, shortness of breath, please isolate yourself immediately from others, even your family, and seek professional medical help. Together we can beat this virus, but we got to work as a team. I understand there's some are for masks, some are against this, some are against that. It's not an easy job what y'all are doing. I appreciate it. But we got to remember, this isn't Bell versus Trinity on the football field. This is one team, one fight, one mission. We got to figure out how to work together. Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you. Next speaker is John Acosta. Mr. Acosta's not here? All right, Julie Meeks.
Hello, my name is Julie Meeks, and my child is an elementary with HEB ISD. Wearing masks as disease prevention during this pandemic has been met with resistance due to misinformation and the idea that masks are an infringement on our freedom, rights, and as an American. Today, I'm not going to argue about the latter. What I'm going to do is bring some clarity, information based on science in order to protect our students and faculty members. At this point in the pandemic, when everyone wears a mask, transmission of the virus is greatly reduced. According to the article in the Journal of the American Medical Association, COVID-19 spreads primarily through the respiratory droplets exhaled when infected people breathe, talk, cough, sneeze, or sing. Exposure is greater the closer a person is to the viral source. Indoor spaces with poor ventilation where an infected person is present for an extended period allows the concentrations of these small droplets and particles to build and transmit infection. Masks prevent infected persons from exposing others to the virus by blocking virus-containing droplets from exiting the mouth and nose into the environment. This is termed source control. This aspect of mask wearing is especially important because it is estimated that 50% or more of transmissions are from persons who never develop symptoms or those who are pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic. In laboratory experiments, multi-layer cloth masks were effective, blocking as much as 50% to 70% of exhaled small droplets and particles. The overall community benefit of everyone wearing a mask derives from their combined ability to limit both exhaled and inhaled virus particles. This is why mask requirements are so important when there is a high transmission rate, like we have now. It takes everyone wearing a mask to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. The Texas Supreme Court declined Thursday to block restraining orders against Governor Abbott's mask mandate ban. And 7 counties and 48 school districts have implemented mask mandates. So I'm urging you, for our children, I know it's not a popular thing, but you know, we have to side with science and not emotion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Andrea Mahfouz.
My name is Andrea Mahfouz. I am also an HEB school district student from first grade and graduated from LD Bell. My grandchildren also, I've got 2 that graduated HEB, and I've got 1 grandson at Harrison Lane. And I just kind of want to go over some things with the mask. I want to reiterate what we're asking. We want masks required, first of all. That protects everybody. Second, social distancing on district property. Third, COVID testing within the district. Fourth, better contact tracing. Fifth, a virtual option until a vaccine. I would also like to add a virtual option is necessary but cannot be the only option. It is not accessible for many, including working families, non-native English speakers, students with disabilities, etc. We are a Title I community, which points to working parents, single-parent households, and lower-income families. It's easy to say, well, sign up for virtual without thinking about the real difficulty in that for most of our families. We need to be thinking of every parent who wants to keep their child safe. And the same protocols from last year. That seemed to work. And just to give you a little bit of numbers, and this is from the HEB School District COVID dashboard, the week of August 9th through the 15th, there were 28 cases. The week of August 16th through the 22nd, there were 158 cases. So if you do the math, that is 464.286% increase. So we're asking you, please don't neglect our kids. Please advocate for their health and safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Miranda Beckman.
Thank you all again for the opportunity. So, and I'm a little bit off the cuff here. I don't have prepared remarks. Actually, I did have prepared remarks, and I feel like I owe some of y'all an apology because I did cast some aspersions about how y'all would vote, and you didn't. So I do appreciate the fact that there was a willingness to hear voices. Some previous meetings leading up to this, I have not had that impression, but tonight was different, so thank you. I just want to remind y'all, currently it is a 0.5% positivity rate in the district. I would encourage each of the board members to have a number a metric, some sort of solid figure that we need to get to as a district before we will then talk about mask mandates. Not how people feel, not what the public sentiment is. You're going to get a lot of that. We've seen that tonight. We've seen it in weeks prior. You're going to have a lot of different people talking a lot of different things. Individually, as board members, y'all hold the power here. In your mind, you need to have what that number is. And it sure as heck shouldn't be 0.5%. Okay? Some of y'all on this board have spoken, we've had personal conversations. You've said you would never vote for masks again. And unfortunately, Friday is going to be an opportunity to see where you stand on that. So I would, again, encourage y'all, have a number. What is that number going to be? The number is the raw data. I understand the raw data. Out of 22,000 students, though, is what people need to understand as well. Okay, the social distancing, we've heard a lot of comments for that. Anyone who's ever stepped foot on an elementary campus knows that social distancing is nearly impossible for little kids. And a good thing is that the little kids are not susceptible to COVID, thankfully, because they cannot socially distance. It is physically impossible for them. The desk shields that we have in place in the cafeteria sit here. The kids sit here and have a conversation, okay? It's just the way of the world. Practically speaking, this is where we stand on some things. Okay, throughout the early part of the pandemic, we had 95+% mask compliance for months and months and months, and the virus still had ebbs and flows and did what it did. What's to say that mandating a mask now is going to make any difference in terms of a viral transmission? Okay? We cannot treat August of 2021 as if we are in March of 2020. And for those people out there, I understand there are a lot of feelings and individual stories and personal experiences that I don't mean to discredit in any capacity. But as a board, and from a policy standpoint, we have to be data-driven. Our district prides itself on being data-driven, and we have to be data-driven here. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Kyle Coburn.
First of all, I'm a teacher at Central Junior High, and I want to say that the last week and a half at Central has been amazing. Kids collaborating, laughing, socializing. It has been everything that we hoped it would be about coming back to school this year. So I hope we keep that into consideration when we talk Friday. Okay? As for me, I don't wear a mask anymore, nor will I ever wear a mask anymore. And I don't ask kids in my classroom to wear a mask unless it is their choice or their parents' choice. You told me I don't have to. Okay? There's no actual evidence, there's no actual science or data that supports masks. Even the CDC's own studies don't support it. 12 of the 15 major studies say masks do nothing and may actually be harmful in the long term. The other three studies say that at most it's a 1.7% lift in the efficacy of stopping the spread. We can talk about statistics all you want to. We can talk about the 54,000 Texans who have passed away with COVID-related illnesses, and that is a huge number, and it's real. We can talk about the ICU, we can talk about hospital beds and how packed the pediatric ICU units are. But if we do, let's make sure we at least tell the truth, the whole truth. Of those 54,000 that have passed away, less than 50 across the entire state of Texas are school-age children. Okay? Of those hospital beds, only 20% of those hospital beds are occupied by COVID patients. And when it comes to ICU beds, pediatric ICU beds, ask any pediatric nurse or pediatric doctor, they'll tell you it's RSV. It's a surge in RSV, not COVID, that is causing that logjam. The only real statistics we should be looking at in this district are our own, and those are 3, 1, and 0. 3 suicides, 1 OD, and 0 COVID deaths in school year 2021. Okay? We should be looking at things like how many students went on medication, how many increased their medication. We should be looking at new 504s, absences, all of those things that are available to us statistically without a breach of any kind of privacy issues. When we look at hospital beds available in Tarrant County, that doesn't do it for this body. We're in the business of kids. Okay? What we should be looking at are the suicide rates among students. We should be looking at the alcohol and drug use among students. We should be looking at domestic and child abuse, all of which are up tenfold. All of which are up tenfold since this mask mandating started. I get that people are afraid of I get that people are afraid of COVID. I get that they're afraid of the possibility that their child might get sick. But that's, again, a fear of something that may or may not ever happen. And in school-age children, the recovery rate is statistically 100%. Suicide has a 0% recovery rate. As many of you know, one of my children falls in that category of suicidal depression, as do hundreds, maybe even thousands of other kids in HEB, brought on by the loneliness and the desperation of lockdowns and mandates in 2021. So until any one of you can look him or me or any of those families in the eye and tell us why the remote possibility of something that may or may not ever happen to your child or to any child is more important than his life or the real struggle that they are going through right now, your argument about mask mandates is absolutely meaningless to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Melissa Trujillo.
The most current information from all of the agencies available, okay? I had stuff that I wanted to say. You know, my name's Melissa Trujillo. I came last week. I'm a registered nurse, have been for 15 years plus. I'm a parent. I have 2 kids at Shady Oaks. You know, and I gotta say, it's not like that's not hard to follow. You know, it is. But we have to separate ourselves not only from just the masking, but suicide rates cannot be controlled by one thing. We have many other factors that play into the suicide rate, such as bullying and other issues. We cannot just make this about one thing that caused it, okay? In my career, I have seen, I know a lot of people haven't seen a lot of people die. I have. And it is really difficult to look at a family and tell them that their family member passed away. Do you know during COVID, no one can even come in to the hospital to be with their loved ones. I had a patient die 3 weeks ago. We couldn't even reach their family by phone to tell them what had happened. Okay? I understand that everyone thinks it's fear. I'm going off of what the recommendations are from the agencies that I have to use that are scientific, that control my world, my data. Okay? That's why I'm asking for vaccine education, more parental guidance with that. If we're going to advocate for vaccines, let's teach people. Let's teach parents and families, especially people that are on the fence, if that's the #1 way to do it. Okay? Masking is one of the only options for school-age children at this point. We don't have other options. Okay? You know, if you can be contagious 2 days prior to showing symptoms, why are we having close contacts come to school? I think we had such low rates last year because we did such a great job at mitigating the risks. There are so many measures that we did last year that we have just pretended like we don't have to do anymore. I would rather err on the side of caution and adjust them for social needs and mental health needs, and work on all of that for everyone. As a society, we are all struggling with mental health issues as a result of this. It is not just children, okay? I feel very strongly that we don't even need to wait until Friday. We're only pushing off the inevitable. We have resources. I have an entire binder of resources that you can use to help make educated decisions based on, you know, the Department of Education. These are the websites that the state of Texas referred me to. Tarrant County Public Health referred me to these sites. I printed them yesterday. They are up to date. Please don't wait till Friday. You can make choices now.
Thank you. The next speaker is Charles Mack.
So I wore my mask to protect others today. I'm going to take it off so I can speak and everybody can hear me clearly. I want to thank y'all, first of all, for doing a hard job, making hard decisions. That's what we expect of y'all to do. This is a very hard decision to come this Friday, next week, next year. We don't know how long this pandemic is gonna last. This is the first pandemic of all of our lifetimes to happen where there's not a vaccine for children under 12. We have a lot of children, over 10,000 probably in our school district, that cannot get vaccinated. That is unacceptable for y'all not to institute a mandate to keep them safe. We are concerned parents. I'm vaccinated, 2 vaxes. I wear my mask to walk my kid to school every day. And my first grader, he loves putting on a mask to save his friends because he might be helping them. He might be saving their lives. And that's the way we've taught our son to be. You know, we've had some representatives from mothers and people for liberty. I represent Bedford Parents for Life because it goes, the Constitution of the United States goes life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In that order. In that order. Cook Children's, one of the premier hospitals and pediatric facilities in our county, Tarrant County. Over 150 scientifically trained, not Facebook trained, not Facebook doctor trained, 150 scientifically trained by prestigious education facilities. They signed a deal asking for everybody in Tarrant County for school districts to wear their masks for kids that are unvaccinated. These are the smartest people in our county that we're basically just laughing in their face. This is unacceptable to us. So I'm going to pass this around, let y'all look at that if y'all need be. Melissa probably included that in her packet, and she did a great job. And I want to thank you, Melissa, for your hard-fought efforts. You know, Texas schools, I got another document I want to release to our deal here. Texas schools can mandate masks in defiance of Governor Abbott's executive order pending legal challenges. More than 50 school districts throughout Texas has a mask mandate in place as of this last Friday. And they're not in the second most COVID hotspot in Texas, Tarrant County. We are. Also, a little blast from the past from our former president who says face masks are patriotic after months of resisting wearing one. We make our kids say the Pledge of Allegiance every day at their classrooms, every day, and the Texas allegiance too. Last year, my son did virtual school and thrived in virtual, then came back into his school in March. Patriotic. We are trying to show our kids this is patriotic to wear a mask, as former President Trump said.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I have one more thing, sir, and I'm sorry. Today, I got a potential
We
close
already gave you
contact.
several minutes.
Today, a potential close contact
Please,
email
sir.
from my teacher, my son's teacher. 2 kids.
We understand, sir, but it's time for the next speaker.
Well, I'll be back Friday, and
Please do. Next speaker is
close
Kevin
contact
Methner.
email today. I got one, and I got one all last week. That is what's happening to our kids that are
Okay, sir. Kevin Methner.
Let me apologize for my earlier outburst, but the other gentleman did run long. It was nice that you might have let him run. Hello, let me reach in my pocket and pull out what I wrote just a few hours ago for y'all. My name is Kevin Metner. My daughter is profoundly special needs. I am beholden to this district for the love, the nurturing that y'all have provided. I've experienced more loss in the last year than I can truly express to you. I've lost both parents, a cousin, an aunt, and many others. Some from COVID, and some of them we were impacted by not being able to be with them in those final times, to spend that time with them. But I stand before you today, not as a partisan individual with some secret agenda, but as a parent with a heavy heart. I come here not to judge or point fingers of blame or make emotional demands upon you. I have no malice in my heart, nor desire to be disrespectful or rude. Simply said, I come before you not with an angry heart, but a broken heart. a heart filled with immense sadness and disappointment. Not at your failure as a school board, but at our failure as a community to support you, to give you better leadership in Austin than what we provided you. This is a failure of Governor Abbott that lays this in your lap. And history will not allow you to hide. Every person has moments in their lives where they're required to do the difficult. And this is where we are. It's us, myself, all of you, my neighbors. We're the ones that are the failure here because we allowed ourselves to become divided, to not see ourselves as neighbors but enemies because you don't believe exactly like I do. And it's our children now that are being piled up. We're going to gamble with their lives? Truly? I wouldn't change places with any of you for all the money in the world, because each and every one of you are good people with good hearts. And I am so sorry that we've put you in this position. So I came here because I believe you all deserve a public apology from the public, because it's our votes that elected these people that have left us like this. And I appreciate the gentleman that interjects rationale and common sense. And I appreciate the fine lady there who equally poses the question of just how much death do we equate at how much dollars? And is that where we are? Is that really? How many children?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We're at the end of the
sorry?
time. Yeah, it was a 3 minute. Yes, sir.
Forgive me again.
No problem.
Thank y'all, though. I truly am indebted for y'all's service to our community. And
Thank
we will eventually get our act together.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Melissa Gelmini.
Is everybody tired? Because it is past my bedtime. I had a speech written tonight. I hate public speaking, but I am here. So I have 2 children that are in HEB schools. My son is at North-Euless. My daughter is a senior at Trinity. And I have just come here to say that I hope that HEB ISD takes action quickly, swiftly, to protect our children. Nobody deserves to have to make a choice between their child going to school or staying home because somebody else does not want to listen to science. It doesn't matter if it's 1 child or 50 children that die from COVID. It doesn't matter if it's 1 child or 2,000 children that get COVID. It affects those families and it affects us, and we need to do something about it now, not later. Implement what you did last year. I was so proud talking to my friends and family last year about what HEB offered me and my family. We had the option to safely go in person or to stay home, and I had no worries whatsoever. I had a close contact email come to me after Meet the Teacher night and after I had watched my 5-month-old niece. I didn't find out about the close contact until after that. Having to call my brother and tell him that I put his child in harm because somebody chose to come to Meet the Teacher night, not wearing a mask, not protecting others, was the most horrible thing I've had to do in the recent months. So, I know we're not going to make a decision tonight. I know there's not a vote tonight, but I hope that you read the binder that was put together and do something before Friday. We need something now, not later. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jason Roberson. Is Mr. Roberson here?
Hello. The question was asked last week's meeting, but bear with me tonight since, to my knowledge, it hasn't been answered. What metrics is the district using for the sweeping change of instructional plans of virtual learning? We've been told that this is health and safety decision based on the risk of COVID cases, numbers in Tarrant County, and high numbers of pediatric ICU beds currently in use. We are being led to believe the students in HEB are putting themselves in harm's way simply by coming to school, and that we must do something to protect them. The truth is, what we are being told does not match the reality of the situation. As the district presented last week per Tarrant County dashboard, children's age 0 through 15 make up less than 12% of COVID cases in Tarrant County, and less than 2% of all hospitalized. There have been no deaths in this county for anyone in the age group throughout the duration of the pandemic, with 59 overall in the entire state. Looking at the district's dashboard as of the last report, there were 68 positive COVID cases last week for elementary students, approximately 11,000 elementary school students in the district. That comes out to a positive rating of 0.6%. Again, data. Stated another way, 99.4% of elementary students do not have a positive COVID diagnosis. Specific insight into the severity of those positive cases is hard to determine. When seeking additional information from the district on how many HEB students have been hospitalized from COVID, the coordinator of health services repeated that the district is not aware of this information, but that I would think a parent would notify us with the situation. However, they are not required to. The same is true for the vaccination status of our secondary students. HEB does not know how many students grade 7 through 12 are vaccinated for COVID, despite using vaccination statistics as a rationale for virtual learning in elementary students and increased COVID mitigation measures on elementary campuses, most notably the use of desk shields in cafeterias. If the district does not know how many secondary students are vaccinated, how can they determine that this age group is safe to go to school and doesn't need virtual options as well? Yet this data seemingly goes unheard by the board. It seems as though the only comments from the community that are carrying any weight are the ones that make outlandish claims like, "You're going to have blood on your hands."
Yes, sir, your time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Next speaker is Kathleen Copeland.
My name is Kathleen Copeland. My husband, Michael, our son, Brennan, and his family all live here in Bedford, and we own multiple homes. 20 years ago, my husband reports to me that we are being transferred here to the Metroplex. I then spend days going to over 24 different schools for our son. Why? Because it was that important. We chose the school first, then we spent 9 months looking for a place to live. Our son graduated from Bell. Our granddaughter is going to Bedford Heights. For the first time in 20 years, I am regretting this decision. At last check, the water fountains in the schools were all turned off. Why? To protect the health and the lives of our children. Later this week, this district is going to be conducting active shooter drills. Why? To protect the lives of our children. Every school day, twice a day, you have crossing guards out in front of the schools. Why? Because we don't trust grown adults who can read signs to protect the lives of our children. All these things take time, money, and effort. Yet, an inexpensive, thin piece of fabric has been proven to protect the health and the lives of our children. I stand here before you as walking, talking, living proof that masks work. I am a small business owner. As part of our services, we offer the inspection and the evaluation of commercial buildings. Since August of 2020, I have traveled to over 36 different cities in the United States, and I have entered into the occupied buildings of more than twice that number. But most notably, I have been in hundreds of occupied apartment units during a pandemic. Hundreds. Subsequently, I have been told at other times after the effect that the residents in those apartments, as well as the person who was escorting me, tested positive for COVID. I spend hours in airports, airlines, hotel rooms, you name it. In this time and all this travel, I have never once tested positive nor gotten sick from COVID. And why is that? Because I'm always the only person wearing a mask. Mask work, mask work, mask work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lisa Langston.
I am also speaking off the cuff, so I would like to say thank you to Stephen. I concur with what he said, Mr. Coburn said. I have people watching online right now, so they are all commenting, so I'm going to read some of their comments. One said, district she knows just did a mask mandate until September 24th. So maybe COVID's going to be gone on September 24th, and then we won't have to worry about that after that. We have another mama who said, make sure you tell them that if they put in a mask mandate, I will pull my child from school. I don't want people to misunderstand when people are moms for liberty or whatever they are representing, that we do not have any empathy, sympathy, or care for people that have gotten sick. We have a lot of empathy and sympathy. We're asking for you all to look at the numbers overall. Again, back to 0 children deaths, 0. So you don't have to bring in vaccine information classes, because I'm an intelligent person and I am doing my research. I believe the woman up here was an intelligent person and she was doing her research. So, and we're divided on what we believe. What I am asking for is what America is all about, and I'm not asking for any of you to make a decision on whether my child should wear a mask or not. It's not your choice to mandate my child wearing a mask. I don't believe masks work. Just as the lady before me was in all those places and proving that a mask works, I've been a whole lot of places and I haven't worn a mask since May 1st of 2020 because I realized we were in a sham. And I have been in a lot of places and around a lot of families and been just everywhere like she was. Never wore a mask. And nobody in my circle, which is a very large circle, nobody has been sick. I don't know anybody personally that's died. Doesn't mean they haven't. I have sympathy for the sweet girl that spoke, and she may have already left, that's a 9th grader at Harwood. That breaks my heart. But we can't do something because a few have that result in their lives to make my child wear a mask because somebody else is fearful. I still don't understand if your child wearing a mask that everybody else is safe. So don't worry about what my child is doing. They're not. They're not.
No
And
comments, please.
the number is about, several of them have said, we've gotten the notes too, and I thought we weren't doing contract tracing. If people didn't get those notes, they would have no idea, and everybody goes on living.
All right, thank you. The next speaker is Savannah Presley. Savannah Presley. Is Ms. Presley here? All right, well, where's Ms. Hollander? That's the last card that I have for the evening. she out there? There's no more? Okay. All right. That closes open forum number 2. Other business, opportunity for board members to request items be placed on future board agendas. Anybody? No?
I move that we add temporary virtual classroom option accommodation instructions to the next board meeting.
Is there a second? All right, without a second, we'll move on to the next item. Approval of National School Board Advocacy Institute participation. At the last, I believe at the last, I need a reminder. We had picked.
Me and Dawn.
Okay, so Rochelle and Don.
And
So-
I'll apply for the stipend.
And Rochelle will apply for the stipend. So may I get a motion on that?
I move that the board approve Rochelle Ross and Dawn Jordan Wells to apply to participate in the 2022 National Association of School Boards Advocacy Institute.
Second?
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve Don Jordan Wells and Rochelle Ross to apply to participate in the 2022 National Association of School Boards Advocacy Institute. Please vote. That motion passes. Okay, item 15.03, approval of endorsement of candidate to TASB Board of Directors.
Just as a point of information here, I am very well acquainted with Corinne French. She has served in this director position for some time. She is well-known in the state as a advocate and as a leader in school board governance. I do not know Dr. Paula McDonald, and from her bio, she's only been on her board a few months. I would recommend Corinne French.
I'm with Julie. I also know her, and she has done some amazing things, and I agree. That's who we should endorse as well.
I agree. I think Ms. McDonald has only served like 8 months on her local school board, so.
I think it was 8 months from when the application was filled out, so I think it's been about a year and a half so far.
Oh, okay.
But
I misunderstood
it's
that.
still a pretty new
I
time.
would still support Corinne.
Okay, well, I will accept the motion.
I move that the board approves the endorsement of Corinne Boyd French to the TASB Board of Directors.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the endorsement of Corinne Boyd French to the TASB Board of Directors. Please vote.
You're good.
And that motion passes. All right, so we are close to the end of the open part of our meeting. Before everyone leaves, I'd like to recognize Miss Debbie Bell, as this is also going to be her last board meeting with us. And it is, right? All right. I was like, did you talk her into staying, or what?
I guess she'll be here Friday.
Yeah. How many years have you been with HEB and putting up with Mr. Chapman?
I've been in HEB for 35 years. 25.
All right.
Well, you may have been with Steve for 25 years, but you've been with this board for the last 8.
6 years? 8 years. Yeah.
And having worked so closely with you for a lot of that time, I just want to say thank you from each and every one of us. You are a joy to work with, and you've earned this time off.
Yes, thank you so much,
We'll
Debbie.
miss you, though. Does Ty know she has to text Mr. Chapman and tell him where he's supposed to be, and what to do, and yeah. And us. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, okay, you have a lunch today at 11, and
All right,
yeah.
so,
We're going to miss you, but we're really excited about having Ty. It's been kind of fun this week to see her name on everything and popping up. And I noticed even like on our little things that we sign off of that her name's on them. So we're excited about Ty. And
I had to put you in my phone. I had to.
yeah.
all right, so at this time, we're going to go into closed session pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.07074. The board will adjourn to closed session for the purpose of Section 551.071 to 551.074.